Hold on, Leah, can you pull that microphone towards you, please? Okay. Christina, you all set?
I am all set.
Okay, here we go.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Affordable Advisory AHAB Board. Today is October the 16th, 2024. We're going to do roll call and make sure that everyone's here in attendance. So when I say your name in order, just let us know that you're here. Mark Bueller.
I am here.
Good morning. Andrew Gallagher.
I'm here.
Mariel Fierro. I see Mariel's online. Good morning. Christina Gentry. Hay Singh.
I'm here.
Elizabeth.
Here.
Monty Sokup.
Here.
And Leah Roslin.
I am here.
Good morning. So I'm going to now pass the mic over to Leah to do some introductions and begin our meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I have a few housekeeping items for this hybrid meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled. Oh no! I'm sorry, I'm going to pause and ask for assistance from Kurt. I'm seeing that the folks on Zoom can't hear. Is there something I need to do differently, Kurt?
I think you have the audio turned off in the corner there.
You're on mute. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be
Oh,
on mute.
yeah.
Leah,
Sorry.
can I get a Wi-Fi password again?
Yeah. Oh. Thank you. Okay, let's start over. I apologize. Thank you both for letting us know. Okay, getting started again. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for the public meeting is disabled. All chats will go directly to me. Unless you are participating during the meeting, please turn your video off. This allows the active meeting participants to be seen on the screen. You will still be able to hear the meeting. When you are participating, please turn your video on. If you have any trouble, you can send me a chat. The city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. And now I'll make a few notes on public comment. When the chair calls for public comment, individuals attending in person should approach the podium to indicate they wish to speak. The podium can be raised or lowered, and we encourage you to use this feature to ensure your comments are heard. Individuals participating via Zoom should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak. Please leave your virtual hand raised until you are called on. Individuals will be called on in the order that they appear in the meeting host screen. Please state your name before speaking. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you, and now I'll turn the meeting back over to Ms. Gentry.
Thank you, Leah. So let's move on to our agenda B, public comments. Is there anyone online with public comment, or is there anyone in the room with any public comment? Seeing none, hearing none, moving on to
Sorry, we need to approve minutes.
approve the minutes. Oh, I am so sorry. This is
You're good.
my first time. So let's move back up and reverse. We're going to approve the minutes. Our first consideration, consider approval of the meeting minutes of September 16th, 2024. Move to approve September 16th, 2024 AHAB meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Minutes approved. Now moving on. Take a vote. Okay. Acting like I've never done this before. Let's go ahead and take a vote. I will also use the roll that I used earlier to approve the minutes for our last month's meeting. Mark Bueller.
Aye.
Thank you. Andrew Gallagher.
Aye.
Mariel Fierro.
Aye.
Hay Singh Han.
Aye.
Christina Gentry. Aye. Elizabeth O'Neill.
Aye.
Monty Sokup.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then passes 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. moving on. Thank you. Now moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Any public comment online? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to agenda item C, receive affordable housing trust fund application presentations. And I feel that I will pass that on to Leah to do some introductions to our applicants.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chair. So today we will be hearing presentations from the 2025 Affordable Housing Trust Fund applicants. Every application will have up to 10 minutes to present. Some presenters will be online via Zoom and some will be in the room. The presenters have been instructed that they can use the time however they wish. Some will have presentations to show. Some will speak more informally. If there's time at the end, if there are presentations, then that's an opportunity for the board to ask follow-up questions. We will be keeping time, and all presentations will be limited to 10 minutes, and we will go in the order that they appear on the agenda. Before we start with the first presentation, are there any recusals due to conflict of interest?
Hi, friends. This is Maria Ferreiro. Sorry to see you all on Zoom, apparently, in New Orleans. So hi from New Orleans. I will actually have to recuse myself just because we do have some applications for the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority, of which I sit on the board. So I'm stepping back and recusing myself. Good luck, everybody. I know you will do an incredible job, and good luck to all of those who apply. And I will be listening via our YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mario. Okay, so the first presentation. So the first item on the first document on agenda item 1 is just a summary of all the applications, but I'm not going to go over that. We will go directly to the first presentation, which will be from Cohen-Esrey for their 711 New Hampshire project. Hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And the presentation should be up on the computer if you want to use it.
Okay, let's see. There we go. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. You're driving here.
And let us know if you have any questions about getting that up.
All right.
Oh, looks like it's up. Whenever you're ready to begin.
Okay, do I control the slides from over here? Okay, awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jack Britton. I'm the development manager for Cohen-Esrey Development Group, and I'm here representing 711 New Hampshire Street. A bit about our company. So Cohen-Esrey Development Group is an affordable housing development group based out of Merriam, Kansas. We've been around for about 55 years, almost 55 years. And we've developed over 3,500 units in over 10 states, mainly affordable housing. What sets us apart is what we go to work for every day, and that's we empower people to thrive in their communities, and we feel very strongly about that. A bit about our site. Our site is located at 711 New Hampshire. It's the lot 2 of the parking lot. Downtown parking lot. We responded to a city RFP issued late last year from the city of Lawrence. The city wanted more density, more affordable housing downtown. We submitted that late last year. We were awarded by the city of Lawrence in April this year, and we're proposing 115 units of affordable housing, anywhere between 30% and 80% of the area median income. Here's just another view of our site, kind of looking a little bit northwest. For reference, it's just south of Java Break and just east of, just east of Mass Street. And it's about 0.7 acres. And here's a kind of massing of it. A bit about our building. So we partnered with Slattery Design out of Kansas City to help us with design services here, given the site.
Is that Amy Slattery?
Yes, correct. We partner with them. They bring a lot of wealth of knowledge with these kind of infill sites. So we partner with them. Right now, all the plans that you guys are going to see are preliminary. We obviously still have to go through neighborhoods, stakeholders, businesses. So all the plans you see are very preliminary.
Madam Chairman, can we ask questions as he goes, or should we wait for him to finish?
Thank you, Mark Bueller. I feel like we have timed and we should give the presentation 10 minutes and then answer or have questions at the end.
Yeah, my presentation's only about 5 minutes, so it's not too long.
I just don't want to forget.
Okay, yes. Well, feel free to jump in if that's...
Problem for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have 115 units on this site. As of now, we're proposing a 6-story mixed-use, mixed-income structure with retail on the first floor. And the parking will be underneath the structure, and then some parking on the first floor. Also, the amenities here will be your standard market rate typical developments with bike storage, residence storage, fitness room, community room, amenity deck, a whole suite of stuff. In terms of proposed unit mix, as I mentioned, we're proposing 115 units, a mix between studio 1s and 2s. All these units will be affordable, and the AMIs are skewed evenly throughout the studios 1s and 2s. We are utilizing income averaging, which allows us to set units at all different AMIs. Right now, the rents are ranging anywhere between $490 and $1,500. As you see, to make this development feasible, we have to draw on a lot of different sources, both federal, state, private, public funds. But primarily, it's financed with 4% LIHTC credits, both federal and state. The state credits come from Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, or KHRC. Some other sources that you'll see on here that are maybe not typical is a Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka Award, which we have submitted for. Obviously, we're also submitting for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, along with kind of the typical sources on a LIHTC property. So timeline of construction. As I mentioned, we have submitted our application to KHRC, which we'll hear back this week on, and that's for the federal and state credits and the bond allocation. We have also submitted our application to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka earlier this year, and obviously we've also submitted our application to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So this development is in motion, or it's moving forward. Obviously we have to draw on a lot of different sources here to make this feasible. If awarded, obviously we have to begin our design process, begin our neighborhood engagement, stakeholder engagement, and go through planning and zoning. Our goal would be to close at Q4 of next year, and then complete the project in early 2027. And then just concluding here, we are requesting $1 million from the Lawrence Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We feel our project is unique and transformative for New Hampshire Street and will provide much needed affordable housing in the downtown area where it's close to employment, transit, et cetera. We also feel that our proposed developments is in accordance with Plan 2040, as it is adding to walkable neighborhoods. Yeah, happy to take any and all questions.
Yes, does anyone have any questions?
When you say awarded,
Mark, will you talk into that mic, please? Thank you.
when you say awarded, you mean, what's that mean between you and the city to start this, awarded?
Yeah, so given the difficulty of the site and the infill nature of the development, we have to draw on a lot of different competitive sources. So if awarded, the primary funding source is the federal and state LIHTC credits, which are competitive through KHRC. At the same time, obviously, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is a competitive source that we're applying to, and also the Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka.
So they all kind of hang together, right?
Yes.
If you don't get our million, you get all the other 37 million. Is it a no-go?
Yes and no. It would be very difficult to make up that gap.
Okay, so they all kind of have to hang together. Do you actually pay for the ground?
We are currently in negotiation with the city on that. Right now, it's kind of a continued conversation with the city on that. What we've kind of indicated right now is to make this project viable, we can't pay the market value for the land.
Do you have an allowance at all for the land?
We have a small portion.
Can you disclose it?
We're currently in negotiation. I mean, we've gotten a letter of support from the city on the site control, but with kind of our conversations with the city, that's a continued conversation that's kind of outside our purview.
Okay, fair enough. And so it could be zero. They
Could be zero.
They could grant you the land, and at the end of the project, you would own the land, correct? Or would it be a lease?
Correct. Right now, we're structuring it as owning the land.
As a purchase? Okay. 6 stories. We all get weird when things get too tall, and I think I know that they got to be certain height to actually work. Do we have a 6-story in downtown Lawrence?
We do. So if we go down south on New Hampshire Street, there's I'm blanking on the name. There's 2 condo structures developed by First Construction, I believe,
Right.
that are between 6 and 7, or 5 and 7 stories, I believe. So that's where our kind of scaling came from. This would be the furthest north that a 6-story structure would be.
So is your rendering there, is that in scale with the building to the north of you, what I call the Standard Mutual building?
That is, yeah. And then if you see here on the left-hand side, that's to scale to, I guess, Bottleneck, be there. Or just the structure to the south.
I got you.
This is actually looking northwest from New Hampshire Street.
It's sitting on that side.
So Java Break would be at the far side of the structure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, any other questions?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Can you break down the units by target AMI?
Yeah. Here, I'm going to go back if that's okay. So this is just by the unit count, not by the unit type and unit AMI. But as you can see, most of these units are at 50% AMI.
No, I'm talking about, let's say, for example, for the studio, how many?
Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, we have 31 studio, 44 1-bedroom, and 42 bedroom. The studio, we kind of increased the size to make it kind of a more of a
Sorry, that's so loud.
we made the studio unit basically a smaller 1-bedroom rather than a.
That serves people with what AMI?
So the AMI mix is even throughout each unit type. So.
Oh, okay. So 16% of studio is 30%.
30%, yeah.
Oh, that's how you break down the. Okay. All right.
Yes.
On your application, it states that the units will only remain affordable for 15 years. That was what is required. However, my understanding is that it's 30 years. Can you please clarify?
Yeah, so given the LIHTC rules, we have to keep the property affordable for at least 15 years. At that point, the lure would expire, but it would be our goal to keep it affordable for longer periods. We can keep it up to 30 years.
Okay.
Can we get a commitment of that? I mean, that's to me, that's a big factor because every other project you're competing against
Yeah.
is a 30-year project.
Yeah, we'd be open to that. Yes.
All right. Does anyone have one more question? We've got lots of applicants, and I'd love to have everyone be able to present today. Are there any additional questions for Cohen? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So much for coming in.
Okay, next presentation will be the Douglas Housing Stabilization Collaborative.
Hi, Gabby. Janine, are you good with your, it should be up on the computer.
Are you controlling the mouse right now?
You are?
Oh,
Oh,
yes, I see it. I can do it. Oh, the text looks all weird. Good morning, board members. My name's Gabby Sprague. I'm Douglas County's Housing and Human Services Coordinator. It's lovely to see a bunch of new faces and a lot of old faces today.
Hey,
Old faces as in time on the board, not necessarily.
thanks.
You ain't even close.
So I'm going to be presenting on the Housing Stabilization Collaborative's Rent Utility Assistance Program. We've been applying to this fund for the last 4 years. The Housing Stabilization Collaborative has two models. We have our sort of baseline assistance, which is through an online application. We run lotteries twice a month, knowing that much of the assistance that's requested, we don't have enough funding to accommodate every request. There's also an annual cap of assistance that is what you see before you, depending on how many dependents are in the household. This also includes some light touches insofar as supportive services or case management with follow-up phone calls during the duration of assistance, also 1 month after the assistance, 3, 6, and 1 year. You can see there the data regarding the follow-up calls. We ask households, are you still housed at the time of this phone call? 96% of participants in this calendar year answered yes, while 4% said no. I'm not going to go through all the demographic information here, but it's there for you if you would like to reference it later. This is for the first half of this year. We also have a tier 2 sort of assistance that we call prevention. This is for longer term period of assistance. This is for households recognizing that 4% of those households said no after the duration of assistance. We recognized a need there, and we've been establishing and working to do longer term assistance to connect people to longer term stability. Through the Affordable Housing Trust Funds last year, we were able to use some of that funding to kind of pilot this sort of programming, and we're going to continue building that through the next year. I have some data sources here to share with you just the level of need that people are requesting here in Douglas County. One being eviction filings from the district court, HSC application totals, and also the point in time count, which is an annual HUD counting of unsheltered and sheltered people experiencing homelessness in Douglas County. I'm not going to go through the data in depth here, but some important numbers are the new eviction filings. This is through the first half of 2024. You can see that we are slated to have less eviction filings this year than last year, which is great news. I account that to the successes of the Housing Stabilization Collaborative and also the Self-Help District Court Center. With continued funding, we would hopefully continue to improve these numbers. You can see this sheer scale of the amount of funding that is requested through the lottery process. On average, $417,000 are requested monthly through the Housing Stabilization Collaborative application. These are some numbers from the point in time count. One key indicator for the Housing Stabilization Collaborative is that 50% of the people responding during the point in time count this year said that they were experiencing homelessness for the first time. While it's probably not the only reason people are becoming homeless, evictions do play a role in that. We know that according to national data and local data. The ways that we're going to contribute to the Affordable Housing Advisory Board goals are we're planning to support 305 households, with 28 of these being supported through the longer term assistance that I discussed earlier. We are aiming to provide and improve the quality, availability, and affordability of housing for households at 80% AMI or below in Lawrence. I do, before we go to questions here, I don't know what happened to my presentation here. I swear I didn't put that questions right in the middle of thank you. I do want to address two things that are not in my slides. So last year there was some confusion about our prioritization process. While it is a randomized lottery, we do prioritize households based off of their housing status, whether they have a 3-day notice for non-payment of rent, a court date notice, or disconnected utilities. There was some confusion last year that we were prioritizing households based off demographic information. That is not the case. We are prioritizing people based off of their housing status. If there is any correlation there, it's because Black, Indigenous, and people of color are often at greater risks of housing instability due to current and historical racism. Secondly, I want to address the funding through the Affordable Housing Advisory Board. Last year, we kind of discussed like this might be the last time that we apply. Douglas County did seek out a regular line item through the City of Lawrence's budget, but there were other things that were prioritized. What I do want to state is that we are coming to you all again because the Affordable Housing Advisory Board funding has been more than half of the funding that the HSC has had for the last 4 years. What I want to note is that while the trust funds seem to be the only local source of affordable housing funding in the City of Lawrence, our city and countywide homeless plan has a line item for affordable housing at $218 million. If we take the affordable housing trust funds as they are for this year, and assume the same rate over the next 5 years, that is only accounting for about 3% of that line item in the housing and homelessness plan. So while I would encourage a very healthy investment in affordable housing today, please don't forget the financial assistance, the supportive services, and the community engagement efforts regarding affordable housing when you're making your decisions for these trust funds. And with that, I will open up for questions.
Thank you, Gabby. Are there any questions?
Oh, I do.
Yes.
So I'm looking at your applications, and it says this will support 277 households with the short-term assistance and 28 with the medium-term.
That's correct.
When you say short-term, what's the length of time you're looking?
If we go back here, if I can. So we do short-term assistance. We can provide all arrears up to the cap and the current months of assistance. We're also doing 1 month in the future if a person is selected in the second lottery of the month, because it's kind of weird to just only pay for the month when you have rent due in the next 2 weeks. So at most, short-term assistance is all arrears plus a month in the future.
Okay, what about medium term?
That is the 28 households and the kind of programming that we're working through to develop with the group. The Housing Stabilization Collaborative includes a lot of different agencies that haven't always done this work before, so we're kind of working through what it means to provide longer term assistance, and that includes things like case management, which we have to build capacity for.
Okay, thank you.
So you mentioned that there's 417,000 requested every month. I was curious, is there a total award amount that you guys award on a monthly basis?
I take the annual amount of funding that is available, which includes the county budget, $342,000 a year, and this funding primarily. And there's also some City of Lawrence funding through the Community Development Block Grant. So I take that amount of money and I divide it over 12 months, and I divide it by how many lotteries are in the year. And then that's the amount of funding that we use. There's an average payment per household around $1,500. So that's how I use that to determine how many people to select in the lottery.
Is there any factoring in, like some people need, like they're requesting more or less depending on their situation? Are you looking at how many households can be helped versus in comparison to the amount of funding available for that round of lottery? Does that make sense?
Can you repeat your question?
So if you're taking the total dollar amount available and you're dividing it by 24, with varying amounts being requested by each household, is there any factoring in how many people can we help versus the amount with the amount of winners that are asking, or is it totally randomized? I'm just a little curious on
Sure. So we do all randomize except for so with that number that is the end after dividing that by 24, I take 75% of that and put it to those prioritized households with court date notices, 3-day notices, and disconnected utilities. And 25% is just a general lottery with everybody.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
First, thank you for your work. It's awesome work. You said 417,000 were requested every month. How much of that are you actually able to meet on average? I'm just looking for a rough number.
I'm trying to think. It would be this number here at the top.
12.
Yeah, 522,000 divided by 6. And we did go a little quicker towards the beginning of the year because we had community development block grant funds to use. But yeah, you can get that number there.
Thank you.
So 87K.
20%, right?
That sounds right,
Yeah, 80,
without having it in front
about
of me.
20, maybe 25%.
Okay. Are there any more questions for Gabby as we move through the applicants?
I have one more. Is there any
Registered.
reason that there's no, like prevention, well, first, is there any prevention, that you guys go through with the folks that get the short-term, award? Does it?
So as I mentioned, we do some light case management. It's follow-up phone calls, connecting them to the resources. The community, the public library has a really good resource for people accessing services. Also, many of the same agencies that are processing applications are the agencies that people would be referred to. So people have access to the resources. They know what is available because they're doing this work all the time.
Okay.
And so they connect folks to those as needed.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks.
And one,
Okay, thank you. We'll have one more question, Mark.
are some of the same people being helped every year?
That's true. Yep.
Would you?
I don't know off the top of
Speculate.
my head how many people. I think we're looking to do that longer-term assistance to be doing that less. I could get that number for you at a later date if you would like.
It'd be nice.
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you.
Very much for
Thank
your
you.
time today. Moving on, we've got next on our list, taking a little while for me to load up over here, but we have Flint Hills Holdings Group, 9 Dell Lofts application, new development.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board. My name's Tony Kresnick. I'm the CEO of Flint Hills Holdings Group. We are based out of Kansas City, and 8 months from now, we are actually moving our headquarters to 11th and New Hampshire Street at New Hampshire Lofts. Spend about 4 days a week here in Lawrence, Kansas. So I'm familiar with most of you. For those that don't know me, we specialize in tax credit development, a lot of historic tax credit development, affordable housing tax credit development. I believe we probably do more 9% urban infill affordable housing than any other firm in the state, definitely any other firm in Lawrence, Kansas. Madam Chair, I was going to ask you for a little bit of leniency. Would you mind if I started with Polar Loft's presentation first? I think it'd maybe be a good segue, and I don't believe it's going to take more than 2 minutes, so I can give a little bit of time back to this body for a break or other presentations if you'd like.
Tony, you see that presentation on the screen in front of you? Can you pick out which one's Polar?
Yes, that'll be fine. Let's.
I don't think I did one for, I don't think I have anything to show for Polar. But the answer to your question is no, I don't see any of my renderings up here.
I have them up here.
You do?
I will, yeah, like you said, I don't think that there were any for
Hey, guys, I think on Polar, it'll be self-explanatory, if you don't mind, Madam Chair. We are asking for $19,785 of money to replace a portion of our HVAC units. The total cost for those HVAC units is $39,570. The total project, including all of the tuck pointing and all deferred maintenance, is $270,000. Again, we are asking for $19,785.
Okay. So just to clarify,
Yes.
we don't have a presentation, we're listening to the application as you explain it to us. I just want to make sure that you have time, and we're able to hear.
I just summarized the 15-page application in 30 seconds. I figured that showing an image of a HVAC unit wouldn't be worth anybody's time.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we're asking for $19,785 of an overall $270,000 project. If you see a number of $39,570, that is the estimate for the HVAC units alone. Polar Lofts is in year 12 of its affordability period. These projects do have a 30-year affordability period, not 15. 15 is the mandate set by the federal government under Section 42 of the tax code. The Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, which is the governing body, requires an additional 15-year period, which is called the extended use period. They also no longer allow you to opt out through a qualified contract or a QC contract. And so we are in year 12 of 30. My personal opinion is that these projects probably shouldn't go much beyond year 20 because we do run into these issues as we're running into issues in Salina and Topeka. But this one right here already needs some help and we're only in year 12. We are going to use all of our reserves. We are not asking for any developer fee. This is straight up benefit to the project, benefit to the tenants, reduce their electrical bill, keep the AC on.
So are there any questions from the board on the Polar Lofts? Okay. Thank you. Mark, are you now moving on to the 9 Dell Lofts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's hear on that, please.
When we're looking at these projects, and there's going to be a little bit of overrun, but whether or not you're looking at a 4% project that you heard before, or you're looking at a 9% project, as the previous applicant stated, these are competitive processes. The governing document set forth by the state housing agencies is called the Qualified Allocation Plan, or QAP. It is 100% points driven. And so when you hear me say things like qualified census tract is all of East Lawrence is in this neighborhood, bus stop access, phase 2, proximity to grocery store walking distance. The reason I'm harping on these items is because that's how we design all of our projects. That's how we choose the location, because if you do not achieve those points, it is need not apply. And so in the case of 9 Dell Lofts, wanted to make mention, it is in a qualified census tract, just as all of the greater downtown area is going east, including the Warehouse Arts District. It is quite literally on a bus stop, and it is the second phase. The reason that I'm mentioning second phase over and over again, you get specific points for being a second phase. In order to achieve those points, you need to show, I believe, 95% occupancy over the last 2 years. And 9 Dell Lofts, I believe, has been floating around 97% occupancy, just as Polar Lofts has been and just as Penn Street Lofts has been. This proposed development is 59 units. We own the ground. We are not negotiating with anybody. We own the ground. We have our zoning approved. We are, quote unquote, shovel ready. Of those 59 units, just as almost any elevator building that you'll find in the greater downtown area, the majority of those units are 1-bedroom units because that's where the demand is. We have a total of 51 units that are 1-bedroom units. All of our affordable housing units in this entire project is 60% of the area median income. These are not income average projects. Of the units, we have 23 of the units that are dedicated for market rate units as well. So we have literally something for everybody. If you make $1 over 60% AMI, it's no longer need not apply. There's a market rate offering. Our rents on this project range from $510 to $800 on the affordable end on the 1-bedrooms. We've underwritten our 1-bedroom market rate units at $980, and our 2-bedroom market rates we have underwritten at $1,300. We have a total project cost of $16,630,000 roughly. We are asking for $740,000 of AHAP funds from the City of Lawrence, and I believe if my math serves me correctly, that would be right in line, maybe even a little bit less than what projects like Penn Street Lofts and New Hampshire Lofts were awarded, not including inflation. Are there any questions?
Quick clarification. I hear you verbally saying 59, but the application says 51 units. Can you please clarify the number of units?
Troy, can you help me on that? Have I pulled up the wrong application here? Hold on one second. I am so sorry. 9:30.
I think it's 51.
I say 51.
I'm sorry, guys. There was a.
36 and 23.
It is 51 units.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So the 23 is still a good number? Okay.
23 market, 36 below.
Yep.
Yeah. 60.
Tony, we'll overlook that.
I believe it's 15 market and 36 affordable.
That is correct.
Okay.
I've got 6 spreadsheets up in front of me.
I understand.
I'm barely hanging on. Thank you.
Just for clarification, we're talking about the Polar. No.
No,
not-
Del Mar.
9 Del.
Nine
Del.
There we go.
I know.
Are there any additional questions from the board?
Yes, I do. So these are all one-bedroom apartments.
These are all one-bedroom apartments.
So not necessarily family housing.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, these are, well, there's lots of families that live here. A lot of people are elderly, a lot of people have joint custody. But when you have a vacancy in an elevator building, whether or not it's Polar Lofts, 9 Del Lofts, Penn Street Lofts, it's always your 2-bedroom. It's always your 3-bedroom unit. That's where your vacancy in these buildings are every single time. Now, when we talk about East Heights, that's a project that is dedicated to families. They're almost all 3-bedroom units with little yards, garages, but people with families, what we have found time and time again, very similar to the mix that you saw in the initial presentation, elevator buildings, common hallways, this is almost always studio or extremely heavy on studio and 1-bedrooms. Now, at this project, in addition to the, bear with me, to the 51 units, there are 8 live-work units on the first floor, very similar to what we did at Penn Street Lofts and New Hampshire Lofts. Those are oftentimes used, if it's not used for a business, they are used as 2-bedroom units. So that's where we find that good balance. And by the way, that is where my confusion was earlier on the bifurcation of the live-work units.
But those are not affordable units. They are market rate units.
The live-work units?
Yeah, the first floor you're talking about.
That's correct.
Right, so, okay.
That's correct. We have, in the Warehouse Arts District today, over our 149 units, I believe we have 4 vacancies. I believe every single one of those is a 2-bedroom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional questions regarding the 9 Del Lofts application? If not, we'll go into the East Hills group. I think you've got another new development, the Foothills Holding Groups, the East Heights. Can we talk about that application? Are you presenting to that as well?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to clarify on all of these projects, the numbers that I read to you might be a little bit higher than what the numbers that were submitted a month ago were. That is because we are updating our numbers real time, multiple times over. So if you have a clarification on a number, please let me know. Chances are, if I throw out a number in terms of an expense, it might be a little bit on the high end. Were we able to show the rendering on
Yeah.
9 Del before we moved on, or?
Oh, for 9 Del, sorry.
I'm sorry, I forgot to.
No.
Well, I think for time, let's move on to the next presentation
Okay.
that you have, please. And we have your notes. I feel that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you guys had the plan. If you have not seen it, again, these are all shovel-ready with the exception of East Heights, and I'll speak about that here shortly. Good segue, talking about family housing versus general occupancy. This is straight up a family development located at 15th and Haskell. We are under contract officially as of last week with the school district. We have a 3-year contract from the school district. We are proposing.
Meaning an option,
I'm sorry?
an option for 3 years?
We have a 3-year contract. We're under contract to close anytime between now and 3 years.
Gotcha.
It is, market could be.
I got it. But
It's a contract or an exclusive option. Nobody else could buy this. We have 100%.
It's a purchase, okay.
Yep. We have 24 two-bedroom townhomes on this project. We have 36 three-bedrooms. This project is not in a qualified census tract, but it is on the bus route, and the project does receive the points for percentage of three-bedroom units per the qualified allocation plan. That minimum threshold is 25%. We were well over 50. And again, points drive all of these awards. This project is slated to be just over $20 million investment. We are seeking $1.2 million of trust fund. This is a 9% project as well, and we are partnering with, in negotiations to partner with local nonprofits that are dedicated to childcare. There will be on-site childcare.
Sorry, the application says 660,000
On
This one?
on
Yeah.
East Heights.
You said 1.2 million, so I just want to clarify that.
I'm sorry, 660,000 is correct.
Okay, okay.
Like all of our other projects, we have market rate units within here as well, simply for the state of not having to turn anybody away if they make a little bit too much money. Again, all of the affordable units are rent restricted to 60% of the area median income or less. Those rents range from $550 to $1,175 for a brand new two-bedroom with a garage and a yard. And our three bedrooms range from $650 to $1,250. This project will also sign up for the additional 15-year, totaling 30 years. And like all of our projects, we do partner with the Douglas County Housing Authority, and we accept referrals with them.
Okay.
Are there any questions on East Heights? Lonnie?
Monty?
Are any of these going to be for sale affordable or any way like that, or are you just purely rental at this?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
I know you talked about.
Yeah, to your point, you do get points in the qualified allocation plan if you offer a for sale product. Unfortunately, in the qualified allocation plan, a unit is disqualified for being for sale if they share a party wall. And I'm on the board of the Kansas Housing Association. We've had lots of conversations. I see it both ways. If there is storm damage and one person can afford to fix their side and the other person cannot, I believe that it could create a fractured deal, or at a minimum some frustration. I believe that's what's driving that language in the qualified allocation plan. So this is a long way of telling you I know what I'm talking about, A, but B, no, unfortunately I couldn't sell these units as the qualified allocation plan is currently written if I wanted to.
Okay. No, thank you. It was a very thorough answer. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there additional questions on the East Heights application?
I got one.
Yes, Monty?
So we kind of break down, we look at funding per unit, kind of like that. But this also includes the daycare center, right? Correct?
That's
Or is that
correct.
it? I mean, that is part of the project.
That is correct.
Will be done.
That is correct.
Okay.
Or I should say, like every project before you today, that is the intention.
Right.
If something falls apart, we'll come back.
One thing we look at is kind of dollars per bed. It's just one metric of, 30-some metrics that we look at. But it gets skewed in this case because you're adding a childcare center. So really that dollar per bed goes down in a sense because there's this childcare center that's added.
To
I just want to make
the
that point,
expense
that's
side.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's a good thing.
Let me be more specific. The intention here is to provide free land for the child care center that is going after and accessing their own grant funding as well.
Okay. Or you could bring in a market daycare could come in.
We saw that out west with a parcel in this site, remember? Where we said, what's going to go on there? And they were trying to attract something.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the
And
clarification.
Monty, to your point, it's interesting that everybody's so focused on childcare as they should be. I'm in the Leadership Kansas class of 2024, and our session last month was in Kansas City. We visited the Panasonic plant. The number one thing that they asked about was,
Right.
can you find childcare for us, not in DeSoto, not in Eudora, but in East Lawrence, Kansas?
Right,
They spent a lot of time talking about East Lawrence, Kansas at the Panasonic plant.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really familiar with that. I've opened two
Okay.
as a developer for the university. Daycares, one in KCK and one here, so.
Yeah.
Get it.
Affordable and responsible childcare is important.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there additional questions? Because I feel like you have maybe one more presentation, New Hampshire Street Lofts for the Flint Hills Holdings Group. If we can move on to that application, you can give a little bit of information.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I want to make sure I have the correct pro forma pulled up here, so I go 1 out of 4. Are you guys showing a request of $750,000?
600,000.
600.
600.
Okay, so that is, sorry. My issue here is I cannot connect to the internet, so I'm trying to do this manually. Thank you for your patience. Yep, 600.
New Hampshire Loft
Perfect.
2, is that what it is?
I got it right. I've got it right here.
The New Hampshire Street Lofts, yes.
What's that?
I was just clarifying the New Hampshire Street Lofts.
Yes, thank you very much. Our request for New Hampshire Lofts Phase 2 is a $16,093,000 project. This consists of 42 units. We have a rendering by our architect, same architect as Penn Street Lofts as well as New Hampshire Lofts Phase 1. This is where the project would be located directly to the south of Maselli's building, directly across the street from New Hampshire Lofts Phase 1. Hopefully nobody misses the blighted building that is no longer there. But if you haven't driven by lately, the Allen Press buildings are no longer there. We have torn them down. We've done all of the environmental abatement. And this land is also owned, not under contract, but owned and zoned correctly for New Hampshire Lofts Phase 2 as well. If you notice the green space between the building and the building to the north, that is Maselli's catering building. This is going to be a standalone building providing green space, patio space, which is a nice amenity. Although there are no parking requirements in downtown Lawrence, Kansas, we do have a parking garage directly to the north, but we also were able to incorporate, I believe, 12 parking spaces off the alley, as well as in front of the building, almost identical to what we did at New Hampshire Lofts Phase 1. As we discussed before, this project is all 60% area median income or less. There are market rate live-work units in this project as well, providing something for everybody. It is directly on the bus route. It is, I believe, 500 feet away from South Park. It is within walking distance to the grocery store and the pharmacy. We're very, very excited about this project. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions?
Question. Is historic resource review on this? Do you have to go through that on this project?
Why'd you ask me and not the other applicant?
I meant it, and we ran out of time on the other one. I actually did.
Yeah, we put a great deal of work into this. Now, it is interesting, right?
This is a tough site.
Yeah, no, I know.
We all know.
It's a great question, a question I think that we should be asking generally speaking, right? What's more important, affordability or a building that's not 4 stories tall instead of 3.5 stories tall, right? New Hampshire Lofts across the street, 3.5 stories tall. I could have provided more affordable housing, okay? With that being said, this project, exactly like New Hampshire Lofts, this currently is 4 stories tall. I believe it should be taller. I wanted the path of least resistance, because I can't afford a delay, I can't afford a denial, right? But no, you opened Pandora's box, and I could talk about this for hours, but no, this is 4 stories tall. It is far below the height required in every single city plan that is out there, 2020, 2040. The master plan However, knowing the issues and the concerns of HRC, we did intentionally limit the affordable housing from a path of least resistance standpoint.
Thanks.
Any additional questions? Okay.
Can I give you the rent on these real quick? We have our studio units, the affordable studio units range from $480 to $725. The affordable one-bedrooms, $510 to $825, and then our affordable two-bedroom units are only $1,200.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm devastated. I helped build that building down there at 11th and New Hampshire.
Were those your beer cans we found?
Nope. Nope.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All marks.
All right, so we will move on to our next applicant. We have Habitat for Humanity Critical Home Repairs Rehab.
Let me go get Erica.
And then Erica Zimmerman.
She's coming.
She's coming in. How do I reset the timer?
Erica Zimmerman.
You're up.
You're on it.
It's your turn, Tony. You didn't take this whole time.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Erica, your presentation should be up on the computer.
Okay.
If you. Do you miss us?
Very much so. It's weird to be on this end
Yeah.
of it. You guys are ahead of schedule. That's awesome.
I know.
Are we?
New chair.
That'll do
On track.
That'll do it.
Well, thank you for joining us, Erica.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And do I control the slides? And how do I do that?
It's just like a PowerPoint, just hit spacebar.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Erica Zimmerman. I'm the Executive Director for Lawrence Habitat for Humanity. We've requested $100,000 to supplement our home preservation program. As we saw in the Kansas statewide housing assessment just carried out by the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, most of the housing stock across Kansas is older than 1960. And from a study that we did in Lawrence, a housing study, we heard that 1 in 4 of our residents rate their housing to be in fair or poor condition. We also heard that 3 out of 4 homeowners haven't made necessary repairs on their homes simply because they can't afford them. They're too expensive. The Home Preservation Program provides critical repairs for homeowners that meet certain income guidelines. That's the major criteria to be accepted into the program is the income amount. We perform a wide variety of services, and the goal really is to keep homeowners safe and independent in their houses. The next few slides are just some examples of the projects that we've completed. So you see roof repair. We do a lot of heating and cooling, a lot of the replacements of HVAC systems, of water tanks, a lot of systems like that. We do, again, there's the plumbing. We see a lot of plumbing. A lot of accessibility also, handrails, steps, a lot of ramps for homeowners to get in and out of their houses. And we've seen exponential growth in our program since we've started in just the last 5 years. And in this just last year, we added mobile home repair because we get calls daily about significant needs for mobile homes in our community that need significant work that are just falling apart.
As of today, we have 20 homeowner families approved for repairs through our program. So they're sitting on a wait list, they're approved, they've met all of the guidelines and criteria needed for the program. We're just waiting on funding and contractors to be able to carry out those repairs. We actually have another 40 families that are just sitting, waiting for applications. We stopped sending out applications because we were getting so inundated with requests and applications that we stopped accepting applications but started a wait list, and we have 40 currently on those, and I'm sure there's several voicemails on my phone when I get back to the office. So we're anticipating that the $100,000 could serve up to 28 families. Costs of repair, as you can imagine, have a very large range in what they cost, with our average cost being about $3,500. For example, we just did a roof repair that was $9,500, but then last fall we spent $900 to help a family get plumbing back, and they hadn't had running water for 4 months. So you can see the wide range of cost in repairs. As we all know, building houses is very expensive, but keeping people safe and comfortable in their houses can cost way less than building a brand new house. The dollars that we've requested will go to ensuring that we keep the housing stock for many generations to come in Lawrence. Thank you for your time and consideration. I know this is not an easy task, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I've got a request for $10,000.
Yeah, there is a mistake on the summary file.
It's 100.
Oh, in the application, it does say 100,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
she said it twice.
Yeah.
I thought, we have
Yes,
a problem.
the official request would be
Yeah.
100,000.
So, this is a continuing program, not a new program. What was your funding amount level last year?
So we didn't apply last year. We applied in 2022, and it was 50,000 that we requested in 2022. Yeah.
Okay, and you have the capacity to double that?
We do, absolutely. Like I said, I think we could triple it, right?
Yeah.
But funding sources that we are at right now, and contractors. Contractors are very hard to come by. Mobile home contractors are extremely hard to come by. There are only a few people that are willing and able to work on mobile homes and getting the supplies for mobile homes. They don't make a lot of the supplies anymore. So because of staff capacity and funding, that's where we're at right now. But we could do repairs 24/7. There's a need out there for
Madam
that.
Chairman, so the fallback is the people just stay where they are without the repair.
Yeah, and the house falls down around them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just gets worse.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To clarify, are the repairs covered 100%, or is there a cost share?
Thanks for that question. I didn't include that. There is a cost share. It's a very low percentage. Their payback depends solely on their income. So it's anywhere from 0 to 30% of project costs that they'll pay back. And it's a zero interest loan. So they can either pay up front or they can pay out 24 months or 12 months, depending on what works for their budget. Yeah.
So I had a question talk to me a little bit about the income qualifications. And if there are also a difference between if someone is a senior and they're fixed income, or if someone's a young family, first-time homeowners, is there a clarification or a definitive where you maybe use an equity lens on the guidelines for the qualifications? Talk to me a little bit about the qualifications to become eligible to receive these funds.
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing that we look at is their income. So we serve 0 to 80% of the area median income. And for a family of 4, at 30% of the AMI is 30,000. So a family of 4 making 30,000 qualifies. And then the next thing that we look at is, does the person own the home that they live in? That is a requirement of the program, that they have to own the home or own the mobile home. They don't have to necessarily own the lot that the mobile home is on, but they do have to own the mobile home. And then we really take a look at need after that. What is the significant need of the family? Is it a senior that is housebound because they can't get in and out of their house? Is it a family who has pouring water coming through their roof? We really take a look at the need at that point to kind of get a lens on our priorities for projects is what we look for. We've had a couple calls where someone had to go to rehab and weren't able to literally physically get back into their house after rehab. So we would move that as kind of an emergency situation. We do take a look at what's emergent and what can hold off a little bit while we're working on the other emergent situations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one more, you said you had 40 on your wait list currently. What will you be looking to utilize this money to serve those who are, on the wait list, or those that you have, in your client base already needing with the need?
So both. Ideally, we would serve both of those, move people off of both of those wait lists, those that already have been accepted into the program and then those that are waiting on to just get an application. We would look to serve both of those lists. And then we'll continue to add to that list as we go on.
Yeah. And one more question, with the 100,000 that you're asking for, how much do you think you can get and plug into that 40 waiting list? So you have a pocket of people waiting, needing. What does that look like for the 40 you have, if that pocket of money can serve? Like, would that be the 100% that you have currently, and then maybe the ideal? So maybe who could you look to serve with the 100,000? Who could you look to serve with the 50,000? Maybe the half of that. So.
Yeah. So we currently have funds now to help with the 20 on our, I'll call it our applicant wait list, application wait list. We have some funding to help work through those projects. It really is those 40 that haven't even had applications yet that we would be looking to serve. So I would say we could serve 20 with the 100,000 and maybe 10 with 50,000 is what I would say.
Yeah, thank you for that estimate.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, to think about what I currently have and what I need, and
Thank you, Erica. I'm sorry, any additional questions?
I was gonna ask this similar. I was just wondering if there was a total dollar amount of applications on the wait list so far.
So for the 20 that we have applications for, I can give you like a round estimate because I don't know the full scope of all of those projects. A lot of times, as you can imagine, we'll get to a house, someone will apply, hey, I need handrails. We'll get to the house and we're like, you need a roof and windows. And so I would say with what we currently have on the 20 we currently have on our wait list, that's probably 100,000 within and of itself that we currently have. But then I have no estimate for the 40 because I don't know what those projects look like. We don't have those applications yet.
5,000.
Well, the application says that out of 40, with 100,000, you can have 28 families. That's what it's written in the application.
Yeah, so out of the 40.
Estimated 28 families out of 40,
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, all right, seeing none. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you so much. Good to see you all.
Okay, 10, 12. We're moving right along through these. I don't anticipate we can stop or we need to stop, so we'll just keep going. I'm so sorry. I'm assuming no one needs to stop. If we do need to pause, is that okay? We take a break? Maybe I should do a temperature check of the room. And then also seeing that
we still have applicants.
Okay. So let's keep going. Let's move on to Independence, Inc., Accessible Housing Program, Accessibility Modifications.
I believe that Daniel is online. Mark, where did you see it indicate 10,000 for
In the letter. Yeah, on the first page.
Oh,
it's in the letter.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't.
Good morning, Daniel.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Brown. I work at Independence Incorporated, and today I'm here to talk to you about our accessible housing program. So a quick overview of our program. So our program provides assistance to enable seniors and other folks with disabilities who are low to moderate income make needed accessibility modifications to their homes. The outcome of each of our projects is to ensure access into and throughout vital areas of the home. So typically what we're looking at is ensuring somebody has one accessible entrance into the home and then an accessible route to a bathroom and into a shower and to a bedroom is usually what we're looking at. We do have a funding cap of $10,000 per project. Our program is open to both renters and homeowners. For all of our projects, we utilize a qualified contractor that has significant experience completing accessibility modifications. The program as is has been in existence for the past 5 years. So while not enough affordable and accessible housing in the area to meet demand, senior population is only expected to increase in our area, which will just increase for accessible housing. Many current affordable options have a tendency to be some of the least accessible, for instance, homes, old residents, and home options are difficult. There's resources that also assist with that financially.
I'm sorry, Daniel. We're having a little bit of trouble with your audio and maybe the internet connection, so maybe here. But I wanted to give you that heads up. We're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you audibly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right, I'll try to slow down and speak louder.
I think it's the internet connection unstable, but we just wanted to let you know, just in and out. We're right here with you, though.
Explain.
Okay, thank you.
Which barrier, just yell.
All right. So how does our program work? So we do screen applicants for eligibility. So we have an application process and we do require proof of income from everybody. We're also looking to make sure that they have a current disability-related need for the modification that they're requesting. Once we've screened somebody as eligible, we will go into the home and meet with them to discuss what accessibility issues they're having. I then create some bid specs. We communicate with the contractor, give them the go-ahead to do the work. The contractor then schedules a time with the client to go out and perform the work. Once the work is complete, I then go back out, meet with the client, make sure that the modification's working for them. If there's any issues, I then send the contractor back out to make any corrections, address anything. That rarely happens. And then after all of that, the contractor's paid once the client is happy. So just some examples of projects we've completed in the past. So when you think modifications, you typically think ramps, and this is a common request that we get. Here is a ramp we did for on a home. It's just 2 steps, so it's a relatively short ramp. We also get folks that actually have an existing ramp, but it's either in really poor repair or it's just not safe to use. So in that instance, we will replace the ramp with an ADA compliant, safe, and accessible ramp. Here's an example of some low-rise steps that we did for a client. Their current steps were uneven and different sizes, also no handrails. So we built some low-rise steps over the top of that and then added handrails on each side. So accessible showers have
He's muted.
Oh, sorry, I got a message saying the host muted me.
So sorry, Daniel.
No, it's okay. So accessible showers have actually slowly become our most requested accommodation modification. It was ramps, and accessible showers have slowly become the most requested modification. And And when we do accessible showers, we're almost always installing grab bars and also the accessible shower heads. But sometimes folks don't need the accessible shower. They're able to get in and out of a tub. They're just needing the grab bars and accessible shower heads. So we can do that as well. We sometimes get requests for accessible sinks. So here's an example of an accessible sink we installed for a gentleman who was a wheelchair user. This allows him to do a front approach to that sink and gives him extra turn space in his bathroom for his wheelchair. And then other modifications, ADA height toilets are just toilets that are a little bit higher than a standard toilet. Those are easier to transfer on and off of. And then doors, winding doorways for wheelchair or walker access. We've completed 34 projects overall over the past 5 years as of today. This map shows the distribution of those projects across the city. So as you can see, they are widely distributed across the city. Grab bars, accessible showers, ramps were the most requested accessibility modification. Over half of the households we're serving are at 30% AMI or below. And a lot of those folks are on very fixed incomes like Social Security, retirement, disability, SSI. The median age served is 63, so we are primarily serving seniors, but that is not a requirement. We'll serve anybody with any age as long as they have a disability. And then we're primarily serving owner-occupied single-family homes, followed by mobile homes as the second most type of property modified. So looking at just this year, we've completed 5 projects so far. We have 2 projects that are currently in progress, 1 project currently out for bid, and then we have 3 projects that have been screened as eligible and are waiting. 2 of these projects are collaborations with community partners. So far this year, accessible showers have been the most requested modification. All but 1 project has been for an owner-occupied home this year, which is a little bit of a departure for us. We've typically served a number of rental properties as well, but this year it's been primarily owner-occupied homes. Average age of household, head of household 64, and then all but 3 of these projects have been for female head of household. So in closing, we feel the goal of our program is very much in line with the goals of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and that it increases the amount of affordable and accessible housing stock. Our program has good referral partnerships with other community providers to continue to reach those most in need. We also feel that the program has been successful in allowing program participants to maintain safe and affordable housing. And with the funds we're requesting, we can continue to make this program a success. So that is what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Daniel. Does anyone have any questions for Independence Inc. and for Dan?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
With the size of these projects, is it difficult to find contractors to do this work?
Yes, which is why we primarily use one. We have a good relationship with one contractor, and they're doing the majority of our work.
I would think. Thank you.
Sure.
Can I go?
Oh, absolutely.
So the program is open to both owners and renters.
Right.
I'm wondering what percentage of applicants are owners and what percentage of applicants are renters?
So I can tell you for this year, all of them have been owners except for one, so a high percentage of owners. I'd have to look back over the years to give you an overall percentage. It's been skewing more owners, where it started off as more renters. Taking into account, if you considered, say, somebody in a mobile home, as we would consider them a renter because they're renting the lot, even if they own the mobile home, so we would consider them a renter. So I guess that with that caveat, it started off more as renters, but now it seems like more owners have been participating in the program.
Okay.
Is there a owner participation? I mean, is there a cost share in any way? You know, they pay 5%, 1%, whatever.
There's not. We cover 100% of the cost, and really the client does nothing. They just call me and tell me they need the modification, and I go out and meet with them, and we figure out exactly what they're needing. I handle communicating with the contractor and paying the contractor, and if there's any issues, I handle having the contractor go back out. But yeah, there's no cost to the client at all.
I have another question. If the applicant is a renter, do they have to get some kind of agreement with the homeowner? I'm sure a homeowner must be involved with this.
Yes, so on the application itself, there's part of it that requires if they are a renter that they get the landlord's written permission to do the modification. And usually we don't have an issue. The landlord's usually pretty happy to agree to it. Sometimes the landlord might have some questions and then they'll contact me and then I'll answer whatever questions that they have to get permission.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Sure.
I had one question, and some of the modifications, speaking just, and this is like a micro question too, but the accessible showers are the most requested modification. When you do modifications, do you also take inventory of like less water use or anything that's like green or friendly? I know that you have spoken and really educated us on the universal design and given us a lot of information about that. I'm just wondering about are some of the upgrades or some of the modifications that are being done, do they also like reduce water usage or maybe even reduce costs for the resources or the utilities for the individual receiving the modifications? Or can you even capture that information?
Right now, I'll say that's not something that we take into consideration, but that's a great idea. I think maybe we could look at potentially doing that looking forward. I guess I'd have to get with the contractor and figure out as far as like shower heads, do they have like lower flow, accessible shower heads? I'm assuming they would, but that's a great idea to take into consideration moving forward potentially.
Yeah, thank you. And it's also a great project, and we've supported you throughout the years, so thank you for your application.
Yeah, thank you.
I just have one quick question.
Yes.
So I see there's 5 completed, 3 approved, 1 out for bid. I was just curious, how many do you have, how many unreviewed applications do you have right now?
Right now, unreviewed, I don't have any, but we've sent out quite a few. I've probably sent out maybe 3 applications in the past couple of weeks. It just takes a while for folks to get them back to me because I need proof of income. And sometimes people will submit applications that are incomplete. They didn't include proof of income, or they are a renter and they didn't get the landlord's permission. So I send it back to them and try to work with them to get a complete application. And then sometimes I never get the application back. We also get applications for folks that live outside of Lawrence city limits. So I have to decline those projects, unfortunately.
Understood. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any additional questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Okay. Galal is also online.
Okay. Yes, so moving on, we have the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority Delmar Place application, a new development.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Galal Obeid. I am the VP of Program Operations at the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority. I'm here to discuss the request for $200,000 to cover unanticipated costs related to the water and fire line for improvements necessary for the construction of Delmar Place Apartments, which will be a development that provides 32 permanently affordable housing units for low-income seniors. We currently have no alternative opportunities for funds. The funding for this project has come from ARPA funds through the county and LDCHA reserves, which we were able to allocate to this project after approval from HUD. I want to say that this project is a huge success for the Housing Authority. We actually broke ground a couple of weeks ago, and we anticipate having seniors start moving in January of 2026. We currently have 142 seniors that are on our wait list. The average income for these seniors on this wait list is $11,686. Very low, about 16% AMI so we do serve the lowest of income seniors when it comes to our senior housing properties. So a little bit of background about how we got here is in August of 2021, we held a pre-application meeting, which is required with the City of Lawrence staff including folks from the fire, planning, and code departments, to discuss the project. During this meeting, there were no indications of any issues related to existing water or fire line issues. So seeing no issues, LDCHA continued to work with the architects to finalize the designs, and in January of 2024, our design build team was selected to develop the project further. A second pre-application meeting took place May 30th of 2024, and due to there being like a 2-year gap between the last meeting. And so at this meeting is when we were given information about the existing issues with the water line. And the key issues that were identified is that the existing fire hydrant near the northeast corner of the property was inadequate for protection of the proposed building. We were told that the fire department would not use this fire hydrant and don't recognize it as a hydrant because it requires a 6-inch fire hose rather than a 4-inch fire hose. So the need for these improvements was not disclosed at the initial meeting, so we did not have it included in our budget. So we are faced with this funding gap, which represents about a little over 6% rise in our budget. This project is being built on property that the Housing Authority already owns, which is why it's the cost of it is low. So yeah, with that, I'll take any questions about the request.
Thank you, Galal.
So to summarize, did the city change their requirements between the time you talked to them? Is that basically it?
Correct.
God. Jesus.
Any additional questions?
How will you move forward if we don't grant this funding?
It's a little bit complicated because the designs and the project has moved forward so far already that the anticipated cost of the hydrant would equate about 2 units. We don't want to see that happen at all. But we currently are looking for alternative sources, and this is one of the only ones we found so far.
All right. Well, thank
Don't you just feel safer now?
From 2-inch fire hose discrepancy, it sounds like, right? From 6 to 4.
Yes. Yeah, the current fire hydrant would not be adequate to protect both buildings. It's actually currently set up for replacement because it's not actually adequate enough to protect the buildings that currently exist. So there's some issues there. We're having to face the costs of it due to the new development.
Yeah.
I have a question. Well, is that fire hydrant a public fire hydrant or a private fire hydrant?
It's a public fire hydrant.
They want you to redo their infrastructure.
Well, because the current existing hydrant currently set for replacement to protect just the current property that we have, Clinton Place, which has 58 units. And because we're looking to develop on that site an additional 32 units, we need to pay for essentially another private or public hydrant to protect the new building.
I wonder if they even reviewed it 2 years ago. That's what I really wonder. Okay. I'm still mad.
Well, this is pretty timely. I know that we, and this is not off subject, I think this is pretty relevant, the Brandon Woods apartments and location and the fire that was there with the senior living, assisted living facilities. So, it's a timely conversation to think about how to displace persons in case of a fire, especially seniors in living assisted facilities. So,
And the Housing Authorities has in its strategic plan developing aging in place models. We're implementing a lot of universal design into this project, really ensuring that we're building properties to ensure long, successful homes for our seniors in our community. And like I said, of the 142 seniors, the average income is a little over $11,000. So, and nobody will ever be charged more than 30% of their adjusted gross income. So we take into account any out-of-pocket medical costs. Like that's the major one for our seniors is they may have low income, may have out-of-pocket medical costs, they can't afford rent, etc. So we are serving the lowest income seniors in our community and very vulnerable population.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, it's a great project, Well,
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, with none, I think we can move on. Thank you, Galal. Our next presentation or the next applicant would be the Lawrence Tenants.
No,
I'm sorry.
Housing Authority has one.
Housing Authority, okay. I'm so sorry. I saw Housing Authority twice, and I should know better. We've had a few one-person applicants. I'm so sorry, Galal. Will you be presenting for Lawrence County Housing Authority again, New Horizons vouchers? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So this is, of course, this is a returning project. This voucher program was created in 2016 at the request of the city and the county. These vouchers are specific for families experiencing homelessness. So this came at a time when we are having families residing in shelters or no capacity for families in shelters, and this program was designed to kind of address that need. This program over the years, I started with the Housing Authority in 2017, right as it was beginning. We've seen that success for these vouchers, these families going from a transitional voucher to a permanent voucher from 60% back then to now 82%. And I intend to make that go even higher. And we are thankful to our providers and our better case management options that are becoming more available. The city and the county have regularly jointly funded this program, typically on average about $50,000 each. $50,000 will house about 5 families. We currently have 10 on the wait list. 4 of these mothers are pregnant, and so also another very vulnerable population. The city currently, the current funds given by AHAB are currently supporting 8 vouchers, 30 individuals, 8 adults, 22 kids. And the county funds are currently supporting 11 vouchers, 14 adults, 30 children. So there's a high demand for these vouchers. Like I said, very vulnerable population. Nobody that enters this program is above 50% AMI. So with that, these $50,000 would cover 5 vouchers for 24 months to house families that are experiencing homelessness. And I will say, I am currently 100% utilized on all our general vouchers, even our transitional vouchers that we've created to help address the immediate need for housing. Typically used to be 8 to 10 months wait. Now we're back to 18 to 24 months. I've never seen our transitional waiting list this long. So the need is pretty high. We are at capacity in our general vouchers, and I am technically over obligated in many of the transitional programs that we are running.
Thank you, Galal.
Sorry not to put a downer on things.
I have a question, Galal, to undowner that.
Yeah.
You're asking for $50,000 that will serve 30 people for a year, right? Is that correct? Was what I heard? So it's
for 2 years.
For 2 years. So that's about $800 a year to house those 30 people per person. I mean, that's a pretty good bargain in my book.
Yeah.
When you talk about the kind of costs we've talked about providing, vouchers and whatever. $800 a year per person, that's pretty good value.
This program, it requires households to be in case management, so they're receiving full support from our providers for those 24 months. to ensure their success in moving on to a permanent voucher.
Have there been any issues with people being able to find places to accept the vouchers?
Ever since the source of income ordinance passed, we've seen that number decline at a pretty big rate. So while we still do have individuals facing difficulty finding housing, specifically accessible housing, there's been a decline. We are on average people finding housing within 72 days of getting their voucher.
And do you assist them with locating the housing as well?
Yeah, so we typically have had an AmeriCorps that would help. We do not have that program currently, but the case management, the referral agency that sends them in, has supports to help them find housing.
Well, thank you, Galal. Are there any additional questions? No. Thank you for the great presentations, both, and the both really important things that you're doing for the community. So we appreciate your application and your time today.
Thank you. I do not envy you all at all.
Okay, moving along. We're making great time. Our next presentation will be from the Lawrence tenants, an educator for everyone. It is community engagement application.
Hey, can you see my screen on like Zoom and everything?
No.
Just a second. Yeah, just go ahead and dive right in and I'll get that up there.
Okay, awesome.
And it should be on the computer if you want to pull it up so that you can control it.
Yeah, the staff is like kind of setting the share screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now I can see it. All right, let me.
There you go.
Presentation. Okay. Yeah, all right, so hi everyone. I'm Vince Munoz. I'm with an organizer with Lawrence Tenants. And so I'll try to keep this presentation brief just so that there can be time for questions at the end. And thank you again for considering our application. So who are Lawrence Tenants? So Lawrence Tenants is just a nonprofit group, or we're not a formal nonprofit. We're just a purely volunteer-run group of tenants here in Lawrence. We're advocating for safe and affordable housing. Actually, I'm glad that the previous presentation mentioned the source of income ordinance and how that like increases the ability of people on vouchers to find housing, because Lawrence Tenants was actually founded because of that campaign. People who were continuously showing up, we got together after that campaign, or after the city like kind of was passing that ordinance and said we need a group really long term to engage with the city. And so that's really the origins of Lawrence Tenants. And so that was kind of at the end of 2022 / the beginning of 2023. So what have we done so far? We do a number of things. You know, we've canvassed apartment complexes. We table at events like Lawrence Pride and Juneteenth. We have informational sessions at things like the Lawrence Public Library, the Ecumenical Campus Ministries, the Sunrise Project, and elsewhere. And these are to do a number of different things, informing renters of their current rights, encouraging renters to get involved when the city considers various projects or ordinances related to renters and our rights, and also just to connect tenants with one another, because a lot of times we find that renters sort of feel like, you know, the problems they're experiencing are just their own, and when we realize that these are problems that are pretty common, we're more likely to say something to our landlords and to the city. And so our proposal is pretty straightforward. Basically, we would like to hire 2 full-time paid educators to increase community awareness, especially around source of income ordinance, but also around other protections. And also, we need funding for things like educational materials and event expenses. And we really want our events to be as accessible to different types of renters as possible. So one of these things that you'll see is childcare at events. We know that parents who are renters frequently can't come to some of these community events because they're worried about childcare. So if we can provide, and we've had this in the past, at least at one event, where we had someone just kind of like have a childcare corner at an event at the public library. So we've done this before, and we can do it, but we want more consistent ability to do it. And I broke down the budget for you as well. So the $70,000 covers both the salary and kind of every other expense related to hiring people, and then for the total of $170,000. And so why do we need this? Going back to a question that one of the AHAB members actually just asked for the previous presentations, ostensibly all landlords are required to accept housing vouchers now. But we know that in practice, sometimes it just takes time for a law to be enforced. You know, it takes time for people to learn about their rights. It takes time for people to learn about their obligations. And so educating tenants is the first step in empowering them to report violations. And in fact, just like a little anecdote, the ordinance was passed in February of 2023. It went into effect June of 2023, but the first instance of enforcement was not until this summer, July of 2024. And that was because that renter actually knew their rights, and so they knew they were unlawfully denied housing on the basis of receiving a housing voucher. And so we know that, at least with the very first instance so far, it was because that renter knew their rights. But I will just say anecdotally, every time Lawrence Tenants has an event, every time we're tabling, every time we knock doors, we know people do not know their rights. Like, we frequently bring this up with people, and people just don't know, right? And so that's why these educators are needed. Another thing, and this is just obviously something that the city is concerned with broadly, is racial equity. The fair housing assessment that we did here in Lawrence found that historically underrepresented groups experience things like housing insecurity, poor quality housing, and overcrowding at rates that are far disproportionate to other groups in the same income bracket. And empowering members of different groups with knowledge is key to addressing their concerns and having people be able to assert their rights. Similarly, the Department of Housing and Urban Development found a similar issue in terms of Lawrence being a disproportionately greater need city, which again just means that at the same income level, people of underrepresented groups experience these issues at higher rates than the overall level. So we know that there are disparities. And why you should fund this project. So Lawrence Tenants is currently a volunteer-only group. In a good month, we can put on 6 hours of educational programming. But if you think about that, that's less than one business day of a single paid educator. So this would really greatly enhance our ability to engage with people, tell them about their rights, and just make sure that these laws and the ordinances that the city and county are passing are actually enforced. So that's the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Yep.
It sounds like you guys made a lot of progress with just the 6 hours a month, which is encouraging. I'm curious if you guys are able to devote 40 hours a week to this with 2 educators. Do you have phase 2 plans for once, ideally, enforcement of the source of income is no longer an issue? What will you guys be tackling after that's not really as much of a priority?
Yeah, well, so I think that it includes both source of income and all other existing protections. A lot of people don't realize that there are protections in state law that they currently have, for example, like pet rent and stuff. Some of these things are actually currently illegal, but they're charged in a lot of leases, because if you think about landlords who are out of town, like private equity firms, they have standard leases that are often not adopted to local ordinances or state law. And so, we find this all the time, and we have relationships. We talked about this a little bit in the written portion of our application, but we have partnered with Kansas Legal Services and other groups, nonprofit groups, to go over rights and stuff for people. And so we've just seen it happen, that it's both source of income and other things. And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just curious if you guys are able to have as much of an impact with 6 hours, if you can devote 40, if you you're going to succeed yourself out of a need next year, and we've got 2 people that then don't have jobs, type of a deal. I was just curious if that's something that you guys have thought about at all.
Yeah, we've kind of thought about some of that a little bit. I will just say that the work, even though we have had some success, there is a lot that needs to be done. Maybe I'm under sort of playing how much educating needs to be done. Every single time we talk to renters at different events that we've had, we always have people who don't know their rights. And so it is a huge deal. Obviously, the question of does it get funded next year or whatever is a question that just will come up next year. And we don't have control over that, but we do feel that this project is still really important.
Understood.
Yep.
What alternatives do you have with this if we can't help?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that because one of the written questions in the written portion of the proposal was, what if AHAB doesn't fund the whole project? And so we proposed that we could work with one person. If you're not willing or able to fund two people, we would try to work with that. And also I will just say that too, if we get this funding, and actually this gets to your question a little bit too, we found that there are some other types of like grants that we might be able to apply to, but oftentimes they first rely on seeing some degree of like past funding like already. Like there's like a lot of private foundations, they want to see your capacity to have previously gotten funding for some reason, so it creates this kind of like chicken and egg problem. And so I think that with this funding from the city, that could help us get capacity building grants from other external organizations in the future. That potentially could help us in the future if we can't get this funding again in the following year. Yeah.
So what is your plan for, some of the overhead that comes with having now paid employees? So filing taxes, getting tax ID numbers, possibly having to become a 501c3, supervising these people, because I don't see any overhead plan or any expenses for someone to do this sort of overhead and payroll and tax work. So what is your plan around that?
Yeah, so we currently have a memorandum of understanding with an existing nonprofit, People's Owned and Operated Collective Housing here in Lawrence, which has been around in Lawrence since the 70s. So we have some support through that mechanism, and also part of the $70,000 per person includes some of that overhead. Like they're not going to be paid $70,000; they're going to be paid like probably closer to $50,000 or something, and then some of that other funding will include that overhead. Sorry if that wasn't clear, but yeah, and I think in the written portion we mentioned that the MOU that we have.
Okay, so you've talked with that organization about taking on these tasks, and they're ready and willing to kind of absorb that overhead and that work?
Yeah, we have a really good relationship with this group, and a number of our members are actually residents of Pooch houses too. So, and we have like relationships with board members and with staff, and so yeah, we've had those conversations.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, a lot of questions. I'm really, this is like a grassroots effort coming to the city for some support. I'm really happy that this for as long as I've been here, our first application that came from community engagement from anyone. So this is very exciting to see, and that you're only volunteers at this point. So potentially with the MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding with Pooch, who have also establish a 501c3 status, or that's two grassroots efforts. And moving forward, what I know pushes a lot of these issues in the community where people are seen as people who have possibly been discriminated against in housing. So I'm very excited about this. I'm curious, you already have the two teachers or the educators? Are you posting this as a job opportunity, or is this already something that you're ready to go, kind of like an infill, ready to go set with standards of what their goals are, the objectives are, kind of a whole curriculum for the educators to be ready to go?
So we definitely have people who are kind of interested in applying. We would also open this up to people who haven't, who haven't expressed interest yet, but I've had conversations with people who, I think would be really good for the job. They have familiarity with housing kind of issues in this space. They have a lot of experience talking to people and those kind of skills of being an educator. So I think we could pretty easily get this up and running. In terms of curriculum, we don't have a specific set of curriculum now. That would be something that they would have to work on. But we've partnered with other groups like Kansas Legal Services and stuff. And these educators, we want them to be able to partner with even more groups. We haven't been able to partner with, I think there's a group called El Centro here in town, a nonprofit, or the Ballard Center or something. There's just more opportunities too that we haven't explored, even though we do have relationships with nonprofit groups like Ecumenical Campus Ministries, the library, Sunrise Project, et cetera. We want to be able to expand that more. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it's more not a question, just kind of talk more about the project. So thank you for explaining a little bit more. Monty?
So, first of all, thank you. It's an exciting, like Christina said, it's a grassroots effort. I think if I think to have this funded, I think you're gonna have to have in your application more of like what the deliverables are for this objective. If you think of our other applications, you know, we're getting so many housing units, or we're providing so many modifications, or whatever. I think if you're educating, I think we would be more comfortable, I would be more comfortable, I don't want to speak for the group. I would be more comfortable if you said, we are going to put on 12 events and, you know, in these kind of venues, and just a little more detail around what these two people would be doing and what we're actually going to see as the action, as opposed to we're going to educate people, because that's a very, I mean, non-quantifiable thing. And if the city's going to contract for something through a contract, they're going to want to know what the deliverables are. So I guess I'm providing, I don't know if that's advice or that's what I'm missing, and that's what I'm struggling with in your application.
Yeah, in the written.
I don't know if you can elaborate on what you think those are, but.
Yeah, in the written portion of the application, we do provide some of that. Sorry, that wasn't in the presentation, but mostly for the purposes of the 10-minute limit that we have. But it is in the written portion that we talk about like how many people we want to reach, and sort of some of those metrics that you talk about.
I'll spend a little more time on that then.
Yeah, and I'm happy, I know that there's another meeting later this month, and I'm happy to like I didn't print out the copy in front of me, but I can have that at the next meeting. So there are some of those metrics that we would track and have. And I will just say also too, another challenge of getting those metrics is that there's not been like a survey of what people know and what people don't know currently. So there's no like benchmark that we have. We estimated those, we mentioned a metric about like how many people we want to reach. That was based on our past experience of how many people we've been able to reach. So it's kind of a rough estimation, but we did include some of those figures in the written portion. Okay. And I'm happy to reiterate that at the meeting later this month and be present for that.
I'll look for that in greater detail as I review again.
Yeah.
So following up on that, and I know we're at time, but I guess if the application was awarded and the AHAB wanted to recommend some specific outputs or outcomes that the board would like to see, would Lawrence tenants be amenable to including those in an agreement or working with the city on maybe defining what those might be?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Leah, for that explanation of what we could do in partnerships too, continuing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions from the board? Okay. Thank you again, Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have our Senior Resource Center for Douglas County. Modifications and repairs for low-income seniors. They're requesting accessibility modifications, and I think we've got Megan Poindexter to give us a presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, this is really fun because when we applied for funding for this project, if you want to call it a project, it was multiple projects. 2 years ago, it was really an experiment, and we were not exactly sure what would come of it, how it would go, if we would have a smooth process. The great news is that it's gone very well. We've had quite a few houses that we've been able to assist seniors with the modifications or repairs that they need in order to stay in their homes. And we were able to stretch the dollars. We weren't sure how fast the money would go because we just didn't know. And so we were able to stretch the dollars for 2 years worth of repairs and modifications as opposed to just 1 year, which was what we kind of initially had expected. So that's been fantastic. When we look back at the projects that seniors approached us with, we learned some, I shared with Leah the other day, we've learned some great lessons in the 2 years that we've done this. One is that we've got a lot of seniors who are struggling with some really big expense items that allow them to stay in their homes safely, that there are not any other resources for. And the biggest piece of that is HVAC systems. We've scoured the area trying to find other resources for folks who need this kind of repair. And there's an organization out of Osage County that sometimes has funding for this, but for the most part, they've been out of funding. And so we've been thrilled that we have had a chance to help some folks stay in their home safely for that purpose as well. That was not one that we expected at all. We've had a lot of opportunities to help individuals with the safety of their home, especially regarding stairs. That's been one of the areas where we've definitely seen a bubble up. Handrails and the steps themselves, as well as entrances in and out of homes that were not terribly secure. So working with our community partners, we've had some good experience with figuring out how to have, I know you guys all know Jeremy Lewis from Tenants to Homeowners. He has helped us on a number of occasions because of our Helping Hammer program that we have with Tenants to Homeowners. When there's a project that is outside of the scope of what they're able to do, and there's been, lack of funding or opportunity elsewhere, he's helped us identify subs, basically, that can come in and assist. And so then Jeremy steps out and we kind of take over and whatnot. So it's gone relatively well. The subs are thrilled because they know they're going to get paid, and they're going to get paid promptly, and so therefore they're willing to do the work with payment pending. And just generally, it's been, I think, pretty successful. So we are interested in doing it again. I don't know if we can stretch another $50,000 for 2 more years, but I have no reason not to be optimistic about that. So it feels like a pretty good investment, and we've been able to really help some folks out. So I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions? Go ahead, Monty.
Sorry, I'm full of questions today. Are you income qualifying?
We are.
Folks, and that's all?
Yep. We are income and age qualifying them. So it's 60 and over, and then it's the 60%. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is there any participation by those folks?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, one of the things we do, we don't ever make promises, first of all, because often we don't know what the scope of the project is going to be until we get somebody out there. And they give us some bids. We're also requiring multiple bids from everybody, so then we can identify first of all, what seems reasonable, because that is not our area of expertise, and identify a bid that both does seem qualified, professional, as well as financially responsible. And so when we're going through that process, we are able to just ensure that those who are participating are kind of falling into that category.
So I'm not sure if you answered my question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Repeat it for me?
That's the question well. Okay, so what I'm asking is the homeowner.
Oh, sure.
Participate. If you're paying $5,000 for an HVAC unit, are they paying $500 or are they paying $5?
It depends on the individual. There are some.
Are asked to participate.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got distracted by my own answer. So when we start working with the individual, and then we identify what the cost of the project's going to be or what we think it's going to be, we talk with them about what can they contribute to it. Okay. Some of them have been able to pay a good deal of it, and we just are filling the difference, and some of them have had nothing.
Right. That's awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good work.
Any additional questions for Megan? Okay, thank you.
Keeping it simple. Thank you.
Actually, Megan, you have trouble finding contractors to do this? Really?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody else is either.
Yeah.
That's in this business.
Yeah. And part of what I think we've had some luck with is, honestly, Jeremy's got some really wonderful relationships in the community, and he has helped to introduce us to some contractors and handyman type folks that have a relationship with him, I think, and they want to maintain a good relationship with him, and therefore they want to have a good relationship with us because we know that they know that there's a relationship that we have with Tenants to Homeowners.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the average cost of the projects that you guys are taking?
An average. It's so broad. An average would be not very honest. We have not established a max, simply because, again, on our first round of this, we really weren't sure what to expect. We've had multiple projects that were 7,000 or 8,000 because HVAC systems are, of course, very pricey. We've also been able to repair some HVAC systems for more like $1,000. And then we've had some projects that were a couple $100. So it's really, really diverse.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving along really well. It's 11:02, and we've got our next to last applicant, an application to hear today. We've got TJK Inc. for Birchwood Flats, a new development. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us and considering our project. I think we've got a really exciting project here that I'm excited to share with you guys. I'm Chris Cunningham from CT Design and Development, representing Tim Keller, who will be the primary developer. Let's guess if we go to the next slide, you'll see the whole team. Landon Harness will be involved on the construction side. So this is I guess the development, architecture, and build team as it is right now. So what we have here today is a 20-unit apartment complex located on the southwest corner of 19th and Tennessee Street. It's a vacant site. It's been vacant for 20 years plus. So, you know, it's been on our books, or I guess on our boards, for 2 years now. So we've been trying to get something to go here, and hopefully this will be the impetus to make it happen. They are all one-bedroom apartments. The lot to the left or to the right, I guess you'll see, we've got the big building that fronts Tennessee Street. That's 12 units. The building to the north is 8 units. They're both 2 stories. They will all be one-bedroom units. So the building to the right is dedicated to be the 80% AMI. We've been working with the Housing Authority, and they have the first right of refusal. They're also going to be helping us with applicants and tenant selection. The first floor will be all ADA accessible on the north building. So that's 4 units. There'll be type A units. We'll have a couple in the south building as well. And again, all of them will be convertible so that they could all be accessible. This will be, I guess, a market rate and restricted income type project, so mixed use, mixed income, which we know can succeed. Here's a 3D rendering of it. As I mentioned, it's right to be developed. The Tim Keller owns the property just right across the street, Birchwood Gardens. That is a mix of 4 plexes in 2 and 3 bedroom units. It's currently 100% full. He really he gets a lot of, I guess, non-traditional students there. So visiting nurses, graduate students, just a real mix. So it's not really, student housing per se. And one of the things that they get a lot of requests for are 1-bedroom units. So we think that, this is a need that, will be filled. And of course, the accessible units as well. The site is great. As you'll see here, the dashed red line is a 1/2 mile radius. So that's, what's easily walkable. We've got 2 grocery stores. We've got Dillon's, and we've got Checkers in that. We've got Walgreens. We've got a couple parks. It's real close to Haskell. It's real close to KU. And if you expand that out to 1 mile, it goes all the way to Iowa Street, and it goes all the way, almost all through downtown, I think, to about 10th or 11th Street. So it's really walkable. We've got great transportation. It's on 2 bus routes, and then another one that's right there. So that's indicated by the orange and yellow lines. So So it would be a great project for those who don't have, transportation, private transportation.
Most importantly, there's a donut shop like
Oh,
a block
there's that
away.
too, right? Talk a little bit about the design. We're trying to do a very, energy conscious design. We'll use a lot of LEED principles. We're not going to apply to LEED, but a lot of those things that you see is, the core tenets, those will be, part and parcel to the design. So, durable materials on the exterior, locally sourced where we can. Some of the more amenities that, we'll have on site. Each of the unit has, a private deck or balcony. We've got a little dog run in back. We've got parking for all of the units. So we're able to accommodate one car park per unit, which I think is good. Even though they may not all have cars. We are planning to do, a carport on the back side. The western, I don't know if it shows up on the side plan, but we'd like to do that as, a solar array if we can. We're going to be all electrical. We'll have space for EV charging. We're going to do, again, this is kind of more of the lead kind of things. We'll meet or exceed ASHRAE requirements. We're looking to build smart wall panels, which is a exterior insulated panelized construction. So you've got continuous exterior insulation, so that removes all thermal bridging, from your exterior studs. So we should be able to hit, with the air sealing, we should be able to hit less than 3 air changes an hour. So, it'll be really tight, efficient building. Insulated slab edge, utilizing the J-form, which, keeps those floor slabs a little bit warmer in the winter, because that is a problem. And so thermal comfort is, priority. Let's see, separation of construction debris, as we go through construction, we'll have 2 dumpsters, and you have your stuff that can be recycled and then the stuff that goes to the landfill. Let's see, so here is an image of, the typical 1-bedroom unit. It's got a small kitchen, it's got a nice little living area, a bedroom that, with windows out to the deck. You see a walk-in closet. We've got washer dryers in all the units. All the appliances will be, Energy Star rated. We'll do low flow water fixtures. And I guess part and parcel to LEED and just good construction, no VOC. Everything now is, well, we like to make sure that everything is low VOCs, for emitting off gases. So schedule, we're ready to go. We do have some planning work to do. We've met with the planning department. We've done our pre-application meeting. So we do need to rezone to a little bit higher density so that we can get this, which I think, preliminary responses, yeah, I think we'll support that. And, with the codes that are changing, I think this is a really good thing. So, we're ready to start drawing, right off the bat and get it going. So, I guess best case scenario, we're opening up, probably in 2026, before the fall rush, the August 1 deadline. So that is going to be easy for us to achieve, I think. And then I guess the ask. I know you guys have a limited amount. We're asking for a pretty good chunk of it, I think. So I know that's going to be a hard decision for you guys, but we hope that we'll get it. So we are bank approved. We've got the support of the Housing Authority. With this ask, we are 100% funded for the project. So, we're, again, ready to go. I guess I'll also throw in that Tim Keller, he's not asking for any development fees in this project. He already owns the land, but everything that, we get here is basically going back into the project. I guess just a quick note, what this equates to is about $75,000 a unit, which I think is great. So it's 15% of our construction cost. So it will go a long way. And so, yeah, I guess, sorry for just running through that real quick, but happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
What's the total value of the project?
I believe it was right around $3 million.
What's the rationale behind having all of the affordable units in one building versus spreading them throughout?
Well, I think primarily so that, because there's a deed restriction that needs to go with the lot. So, so we kind of, initially we conceived this project as, 2 buildings because that's how, it works best with the site, getting, in and off. So, so I think we kind of took that parcel there, so it will need to be parceled out. So we said, hey, let's just do this building as the, restricted one. So, so I think that's really kind of how it came apart. If there's a means or a way to integrate those better, we'll be happy to look at it, but I think that it needs to go with the property, and so I don't know that we want to tie up that whole lot for that 30 years that is required.
It's a nice project. I like the architecture. I mean, it's a really nice looking project and well thought out, I think. $75,000 a door is pretty high subsidy, and in our book is what we've seen as subsidies. So my question is on the deed restriction, does the housing authority get credit for the $75,000 when they buy the house? They buy the project?
That's a great
because otherwise that's essentially goes to the buyer as a subsidy to the developer of $600,000 if we don't get credit for it in the end.
Great question. I'd have to probably defer to Tim on that.
I think we need to know that. I would need to know that before I could rank the project.
Right. And I guess I'd be happy to get that. He's traveling right now, so not able to attend. So
sure, we got a couple weeks before.
If you could shoot that to me, I'll be happy to get it to him, and we'll get you a response just as quick as we can.
Thanks.
Are there any additional questions? And I see that we are out of time, so we'll move on. Thank you very much for the presentation today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along, we've got just our final presentation from tenants to homeowners to rehab. And we will receive you. Hello.
Hi, friend.
Good, still morning, everyone. Nicholas Ward here, Assistant Director at Tenants to Homeowners, Inc. And today I'm presenting to you the project which just kind of no flowers on this title, just ARM 2025 is what I titled it. ARM, as an acronym, stands for Affordable Rental Management. It's a program that we developed pre-pandemic and kind of implemented in the pandemic to take a look at houses that were existing in the community that were vacant, dilapidated, or in threat of going under, being demolished, essentially. And so that's the extreme end of it, where they're that far along. We've implemented this program so far on a few properties. The one that was funded through AHAB was Clayton Court, and that was a house that had sat vacant for over a decade. And when we got a hold of the owners, and we worked directly with the city to find out how to contact the owners, what we found out was that they had a tenant in there. The house had been harmed to the extent that to repair the damage, they couldn't afford it and still make sense with renting it. And so we came up with our ARM contract, which would essentially subsidize the repairs to the unit to bring it up to code. And then what we would get in exchange for that is that house would then be online as an affordable unit, and the rents would be deeply reduced. So if they would have been able to get $1,200 a month for the rent, we would need that to be down at like $500 or $600, so that over the course of 5 years, that subsidy is paid back through affordability. And so that's the model we use. That's not a permanent solve. That doesn't bring a permanent home online, although I will say in the situation with Clayton Court is that they were so happy with the way that the project had worked out that a year and a half later they offered to sell us the house at, and this is the way we would always do it, at market rate minus the value of the subsidy that initially went in, and so we ended up getting a better deal than what it would be because there had already been a year and a half of rent paid. So that won't always happen. We can't promise that, but that has occurred so far. We're requesting $200,000, and what we're stating is that this would be for 2 to 3 project units, which is a significant amount of subsidy. But we're considering units that may need really significant repairs. So this would be systems upgrades, new windows, accessibility. We're probably not going to mess with something that goes all the way into significant foundation repairs or anything like that, but short of jacking up the house and doing a bunch of stuff, we would be looking at houses that really need repairs and that the owners can't make those repairs to have those be a part of the program. I've been communicating with Code Compliance Office to see which houses they're currently aware of, and usually they come into knowledge of those by the fact that the city is mowing those units, those lots, or the taxes aren't being paid. That's another way. And so, but there are a lot where the taxes are being paid, but the houses have been sitting vacant for a number of years. So in addition to that, we work with neighborhood associations to identify units in their neighborhoods that are vacant that could use a program like this. For the project begin date, we'd be looking at April 1st, 2025. So if awarded funding, we would start talking to potential partners on this in the winter, early part of the year to figure out which units would be viable for this. So that being said, going into this right now, we're requesting the $200,000, but we have not identified the exact units that funding would go towards. That would be something that we start moving on immediately if awarded the funding. Although, with that said, I do have a long list of houses that are currently vacant in and around in a number of neighborhoods. Let's see. And so project completion date projected would be December 31st, 2025, with lease up in these units in the beginning of 2026. And then what we've done so far is a 5-year affordability on these. That could be extended depending on how much money is put into the units. When we initially did 5 years, I think we only had to put $40,000 into a house. And saying only is a big deal because that's a lot of money. But we're considering up to $100,000 per home to bring a house that would normally sit for a number of years back online. The other thing I want to stress is that in a lot of conversations with affordable housing, there's considerations of like who's winning or who's being negatively affected based on the subsidy that's coming through. And in this one, I honestly think it's a 3-way win where you have the direct neighborhood around them seeing this as a win because you have a vacant structure coming online, so you don't have to worry about squatting or anything else like that. The person who is the private owner of the residence sees it as a win because even though they're taking decreased rents, they have a capital improvement to their home, which in the future they can realize by having that there. And then it's definitely a win for the people that are making use, the clients and the tenants of this affordable housing. We make it a big point to we would look at smaller units, but oftentimes 3 or 4 bedroom units, which are much more expensive to build right now. If we can bring one of those online through this program, that's a really great deal for a family. This for the 2018 housing market analysis goals. 2 things that were listed there: 35 homes brought into good condition was one of the goals, and 11 rental units receive accessibility modifications. So this project would meet both of those things. Again, working with the Code Compliance Office, I know it's a celebrated moment if we can take something that's on their list off of their list, and so that's our goals. That was the case with Clayton Court. I think that made the person that was in that position very happy at that moment when we did that. And I guess that's kind of the basics of it. There might be some things I'm skipping just because I'm so familiar with the program, having helped develop it. But if there's any questions at all, if that's permitted, please feel free to ask them of me. Yes,
I have
Mark.
several. I don't think I was here at the beginning of Clayton Court. Did you have that house in mind and then said, this is what we want to do to Ahab? I mean, did you have the actual project in front of you first?
Yeah, so with Clayton, we did. We had kind of soft developed what a contract would look like. We didn't have a model or an
I got
example
it.
to look
But
at.
you had a willing you had a deal. And right now, we'd be funding a pool.
You'd be funding a pool with the commitment that we would.
It'd be the same kind of deal.
That it would be online by January of '26.
Okay.
Yep.
My next question is, I'm realizing kind of like, duh, when did my light come on? But we take housing in some cases, depending upon who owns it, out of the market, off the tax rolls at some point in time. And so walk me through this. I own the house, we make the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paying real estate taxes on it or getting them caught up and then paying taxes. And at some point, and now I'm leasing it. Am I still paying real estate taxes?
Yeah, you're still paying real estate taxes. I guess the big difference in the way that it's been acceptable for the private ownership entities in this case is that they're paying real estate taxes and not getting any rent. And so the difference would be, even though they're getting a reduced rent and improvements.
No, I understand, but I still own it, so I'm still paying ad valorem.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And then at some point, I move it to you to resell it or use it. Is that right?
That's an option, but that's not specifically part of the contract.
I know. I want to know when real estate taxes stop being collected.
That would only be, if you sold to tenants to homeowners for the market rate or less minus the subsidy put in. If you kept it through the duration of the program agreement and then kept it after that, it would just be yours with the improvements.
When it goes to tenants to homeowners, it's now off the tax rolls. And you own it.
Yep.
And do you ever resell it and get it back in?
Not into the market. We would only resell back into permanent affordability. So anything we acquire remains permanently affordable through the land trust model.
Okay. But then ad valorem taxes have stopped. Okay.
Well, the taxes are still paid by the homeowner, but it's set at a reduced rate because it's not the value of the property. It's the value for the property as they could resell it through the model.
I think I can clear up your question. If they sell it in the trust fund model where they actually sell the real estate to someone, but they have the obligation to sell it back.
Correct.
Then they pay tax. That person pays taxes because they own.
They still own it.
Yeah. So the only time it would be off is if they were operating as a rental.
Yep.
And affordable. That's their exempt purpose.
Right.
So if it kind of depends. If they are renting it, then it's exempt. If they're selling it in the trust model, it goes back on the roll.
Yeah. But a lot of what we're doing is creating situations where real estate taxes are not being paid to the taxing authorities.
Right. And this
not just you, but a whole bunch of things we're doing.
Right.
Okay.
And this would not, like Monty said, this would not be the case unless it was sold to TTH and we held it as a rental versus selling it into ownership.
Which you in fact do, right?
We do that, but that's kind of would go through our board of directors whether it becomes.
No, I understand,
right,
but it is a good thing that you do.
Yeah.
Hold property for affordability reasons.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's typically $300 a month reduction in rent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not insignificant.
Taxes are expensive.
Taxes are expensive.
So what happens if the owner doesn't want to sell the property to you after 5 years?
After 5 years, then
You want to keep it. Then what happens?
He will keep it. The program agreement is over. The community has received back the subsidy that was put into it in affordability plus some, and it's free and clear. They own the improvements to it. The subsidy has been absorbed back into the community, and that's the end of that agreement. They could also extend the agreement if they chose to do so, or they could sell it. So they have kind of a few different options.
One of the options would be turning into a market rate renter.
They would have that option, absolutely, yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And one of the main reasons that we see this as the tenants to homeowners, I guess, sees this as a viable model is just the cost of new construction right now. We can't meet the demand. And so we started looking at how do we deal with existing housing stock and create affordable units, even if for some of these it's for a 5-year period. It just buys us a little time at a much better rate than attempting to build new, which we can only do a certain number of a year that doesn't quite meet the need.
It's also an interesting private model. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
To look at it a different way, we're paying for the improvements to the house. We're essentially providing the renter a voucher
Yeah.
For the,
via those
For the di-
costs.
for the
And after
discount.
5 years, we've paid in vouchers, or we've recovered in voucher the cost of the improvements, and then it goes back to the market. So it's kind of, it's a interesting way. It's a creative model. I applaud you even coming up with this idea.
Maybe I just don't know enough on this one, but I'm just curious if attempting to purchase first is more beneficial than the doing the repairs and then having a 5-year commitment. Is that something you guys have explored already and decided against for one reason or another?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what we had normally explored in the past. And then part of the consideration is just, how much funding is available through the sources that we have access to. And if, let's say we were going to purchase the house at, $200,000 right now, can we do that? Do we have access to the funding to do that? Versus can we take that same $200,000 and bring 3 houses online, even if it's for a short term, with the anticipation or hope that at least one of those ends up rolling into trust through a sale? Because oftentimes the circumstances is that these are, the landlords in this case are absentee in one way or another. And so once they see it fixed up, once they're getting some income and they have the opportunity to relieve themselves of it, we kind of anticipate that on a percentage of these that'll happen. But if there was unlimited money, of course, we would just be purchasing and rehabbing and selling.
So does how much of it, I guess I'm a little lost on if repair and then purchase is the goal, how much more affordable is it when the purchase offer is made? Because 200,000, 3 houses, so 66,000 off approximately.
It would be, whatever the subsidy that we put in initially, taken away from the market value. So we hold that model, even if we're, say, 3 years into the program, it's still the initial subsidy put in away from the market value. So then essentially that 3 years was free. And that's just the way we've developed the contract. We haven't had pushback on that. I mean, we've only done a couple so far, but that's because we're always right. There's leveraging, there's percentages, and so we always want to try to get a little bit more in affordability than we're putting in. I mean, ideally we'd get like a 2-to-1, but that's really tough right now.
It's an organized flip. People that flip houses all the time. That's what this is.
Yeah. Okay.
I have one question, and I know that we're at time, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the code compliance requirements. You said that there's non-identified units yet.
Yeah.
You're hoping to, and you explore ways to get some online. Vacant housing services, so how do you go, the ideal was how it happened before when you gave us an example.
Yeah.
Of someone looking and searching for assistance. How do you go about offering this opportunity to 2 to 3 units with the monies that you will be granted? How does that even go about? How do you poach those folks, or how do you get those folks?
I think, well, I have a list of houses that either with the code compliance office or just myself, through walking the neighborhoods or talking to neighborhood associations that I've identified that have been vacant for a while. Okay. So I would start there and contact those homeowners. And then, I mean, we would probably just do some really basic social media posting to put out information about, do you have a property that's ... Are you interested in ... Please contact tenants to homeowners. And circulate some things that way to see. I mean, we might be getting more responses than we need to for that. But so we would do our kind of behind the scenes work, and then we would do some kind of public facing work. I guess because there's kind of an equity consideration there too with who has, if you view this as an opportunity to get a private unit repaired, then there would need to be some kind of everybody has an even platform to approach this program too. So we would put that out there that way when we start I've already reached out to some individuals, but when we start really reaching out with, hey, we're ready to go on this, do you want to sign a contract? And the other consideration would be that we need to have those homes inspected first and figure out what the scope of repairs is, because we don't want to go in and find out that a house is going to eat up more than we actually have available in repairs. So there would be a little bit of, I guess, trial with that too to make sure that a unit is right for this.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. Are there any other questions as we wrap up all of the applications and all the presentations? Thanks again.
Thank you, Nick.
Excuse me. Before we move on to item 2, we wanted to take a break. We've been sitting here for a little while, so I will take a little bit of a 5-minute for everyone. You can stretch your legs, and we'll come back and return at 11:37. And get started. I think we get back online.
Let's call the meeting back to order. Hold on.
Do I still need to do roll call?
I asked if he could do public comment, and I told him to send you an email.
Okay.
That we had public comment at the beginning.
Yeah.
Open.
Okay.
So he's gonna send you something to distribute.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. We don't have to do roll call. You can just call the meeting back to order.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. We are now back, everyone back into the building and back in session, and call the meeting back to order. And with that, Leah, will you guide us through receiving orientation on scoring and submitting affordable housing trust fund application recommendations?
Yes, thank you so much, Christina. So I am going to, we have about half new members, and so I'm going to go through how to prioritize and score the applications, sort of next steps at this point, run through the scoring review matrix that I sent out, and answer any questions. We are about 15 minutes behind, so we'll do our best to get through as much as possible, and then we might need to pick up any additional questions at our special meeting on the 28th. I think that's the 28th. Sorry, the 29th.
Okay, I thought,
Yeah.
oh my God, I've done it again. I hope that's fun.
I know. Let me just go ahead and correct this real quick. Okay, so I am going to show this presentation, and I'm sorry because my back might be turned. Kurt, do I need to do anything to share?
Hit the share button. You know, the green button on the
Don't see it.
Zoom? That's the right one.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go into timelines. So today is October 16th. We received applicant presentations. We will have a special AHAB meeting to discuss project applications on October 28th. At that
29th.
I'm sorry, on October 29th, I updated it here and not on the copy I'm looking at. I have notified all of the applicants about that special meeting and have advised them that it would likely be in their best interest to be available at least by Zoom. Typically, the board will have additional questions or clarification items that come up during the discussion portion that it will be helpful for applicants to be able to address, but it is not a requirement. I would ask that you all come, really prepared to that meeting, having thoroughly read all of the applications, perhaps started your scoring or some sort of prioritization of the projects. At that special meeting, it will only be discussion. We will not be doing any funding recommendations, although you all might get a sort of temperature taking of where the group is. On November 4th, the scoring matrix will be due via email to me by 5:00 p.m. I take all of the individual AHAB scores and recommendations and average those just to start the meeting when we do begin discussions on the recommendations. On November 11th, we will have a regular AHAB meeting and
Excuse me.
Yeah,
When you average the scoring, that's not an allocation.
No.
Right.
No,
I'm kind of saying this for those that haven't done it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't know what all this meant. And then, okay, are we done? Do we just turn in our test and the game's over?
Yeah.
And we're not.
Yeah, thank you.
Dogfight yet to come.
Yeah. So at that, so I'll do an averaging of the dollar amount and the sort of order and the scores, and that's just used as a starting place.
Okay.
To begin discussions. Any other questions about that part? I know I'm running through this really quickly. An additional piece of information is that those scores, your individual scores, are made public via an attachment to the Lawrence City Commission agenda. So ultimately, you all are provide recommendations to the governing body. The governing body is actually the ones that approve and award the funds. So your individual scores, as well as those averages, will go to the governing body for consideration. But we do not publicly show, we don't bring up individual scores in our meeting discussions. There's been questions about that in the past. On November 11th, the AHAB will have further discussion and come to a vote on the recommendations for 2025 awards. On December 10th, the City Commission will review and hopefully approve those recommendations. They could also change the recommendations and, determine their own awards, or they could kick them back to the AHAB for further consideration. And then in January 2025, the grant year begins. Any questions about the process? Yeah.
So I know that we will be inviting all applicants back to the meeting in case there's questions that come up. If there are some specific materials that we would actually want to have to go along with the application in order to clarify and give them a more full consideration, is that something that we can do and request or not?
Yes, I would ask that you please send those to me, and I'll reach out to the applicants to get those materials. Any other questions about the timeline?
And that's where that kind of needs to go to you, because we don't reply all to stuff like that, do we?
Correct. You will not reply all.
Make sure we're not all getting
violating
together.
Komakora. Yeah. Okay. In terms of, and this is, I think, particularly important for new members when you're considering scoring and prioritizing applications. So the purpose of the trust fund is to provide and improve the quality, availability, and affordability of housing in Lawrence, to acquire land for future affordable housing, and to invest in public-private partnerships for the provision of affordable housing. In terms of allowable projects, all of the applications, I think, with the exception of one, is under the category of an allowable project. So you can see the list: land acquisition, new affordable housing development, rehab for affordable housing, accessibility modifications, housing vouchers, community awareness and community engagement projects, and projects that advance racial equity in housing. We do have one applicant, the Housing Stabilization Collaborative. That is not a voucher program. That's short-term rental and emergency assistance. In the past, the AHAB has still considered and funded that project, although it's not technically an allowable project under the goals that the AHAB has set. In terms of how to prioritize the projects, would ask that you look at the prioritization list and the notice of funding opportunity. And a lot of those things, all of those things that we've indicated that will prioritize projects and the NOFO are included in the key project elements chart that I sent out and will show in just a moment, as well as in the scoring matrix. So the majority of those items that we are using to prioritize are scored items. And then additionally, there's a chart where you can sort of compare the different projects based on those prioritization categories. You will look at the application matrix scores and use that as one sort of benchmark as a way to prioritize applications, but you do not need to say like the highest application, your highest score doesn't necessarily mean that that is the highest awarded project. It's one criteria that you can use, but it doesn't need to be the criteria, if that makes sense. I would say the scoring matrix is an imperfect system. We've done our best to improve it. I'd say that it works the best at this point for new development. Our matrix does not do a good job of scoring things like the rehab projects, just based on like our structure. It doesn't do a good job, I think, of evaluating the community engagement ones. So again, it's just one mechanism. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, please.
I think one thing the matrix does do is it makes you consider all of those different categories. So it really makes you go through the process of like, okay, well, it misses the mark on this, or it does a good job of this. So it's really valuable in that sense. Whether the number you get at the end is a great indicator or not, it makes sure you got a good feel for the project.
Yeah, and I would say that it's most useful in my mind to look at it in categories. And the key project elements chart, I've put, there are separate tabs for the different types of projects. They're color-coded. And I think that that is most beneficial to sort of compare the scores for like projects. So you're comparing the scores of the development, you're comparing the scores of the rehab, et cetera, and not comparing the scores of the development to the scores of, I don't know, vouchers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So sorry. Okay. I know there's so much. Alignment with a place for everyone affordable housing goals. When we go through the key project elements chart, those are all included in that, and I will show you sort of the goals that we've identified in a place for everyone, where those fall on the key project elements chart. Project timeliness should be considered, and the significance of funding gaps is something that you may consider as well.
Okay. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Timeliness. You know, some of these projects go into 26.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so how does the timeliness work on stuff that, you know, we have a 3-year contract to buy this land?
Mm. Well, so right now, construction, like even after getting all of the funding secured, construction is typically taking like 18 to 24 months. So
I know we can't get immediate satisfaction here, and I mean some of the programs we can, but I on new stuff I do have trouble with the timeliness thing because, come on, I mean I'll be here when they get this done. You know, they have so much time to get it bought and get this and get that.
Well, and so something that you might look at is on the key project elements chart, there's like, are you shovel ready? Are you in process? So if they have all the funding secured, I think that's an area that I would look at in terms of project timeliness.
Yeah, I would look at project start.
Yeah.
When they're actually going to start construction versus when they're, because if they got a 3-year option to buy the property, the construction start might not be for 3 years. They're ready to go. They're going to have a facility in 3 years.
Right.
So I mean, I think it's a factor. Certainly.
Okay, it's not the only factor.
It's not the only factor, but
like the first project that we looked at was cool, groovy. I mean, I'm not ready to score that, but that's going to take a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care who's doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it moving, and then we can continue having these discussions when we discuss the applications, just in the interest of time. And now the slide's not advancing, so this is so fun. Okay. So evaluation criteria for all projects. So advance the AHAB goals. This is a list of the AHAB goals. I'm not going to read those just in the interest of time. We went through these goals in the last meeting when we did the AHAP orientation, and this presentation is linked in the agenda, and if you need to remind yourself, I would suggest that you just pull up the presentation and look at the goals that we've set. Second criteria is advancing the objectives in the A Place for Everyone affordable housing plan. Those are the objectives listed there. So and I would just bring your attention to that really we are looking for units that prioritize or that include lower AMI at 60% or below, projects that include accessible units, projects that include family units as defined or 3 or more bedrooms. Those are the types of projects that we have the hardest bringing online, and that we really need to develop in order to serve community need. Further evaluation criteria, so a strong commitment to racial equity, inclusion of priority populations that have been listed, and those were identified in your key project elements chart and scoring matrix. They have meaningful neighborhood engagement and community outreach, the capacity of the developer, the organization, and again, AMI served. So primarily, serve lower residents will be prioritized higher. In terms of acquisition and development, we want to see projects that expand affordable housing to all Lawrence neighborhoods throughout the city. The majority of the projects have been done so far in East Lawrence, and so our scoring matrix gives additional points to projects that are outside of the 66044 zip code, where most of the affordable housing projects have been developed. Prioritizing projects that hold affordability and perpetuity, or the longest that the projects are affordable, the higher they are prioritized. Some kind of sustainability commitment, and including sustainable building practices, and then community need is identified in the housing market analysis. No, I'm like zipping through these. We don't have enough time. Furthermore, I'm not, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to read these off. These are all included in the scoring matrix. So as I said, the scoring matrix will be used to evaluate every application. Every matrix has a total score of 200 possible points. I will email out an updated scoring matrix because there was one error. So I've updated that and we'll email that out. And that says 28th, I extended that time. And that's it. So now I'm going to quickly go through the scoring matrix. Okay.
Tell us about it.
Nope. So we are at 11:59. The meeting is supposed to adjourn at noon. Madam Chair, would you like to?
How long, I mean, we're not going to go through the whole thing, are we? Were we?
No, not all of them, no. But I just need to, about 10 minutes, yeah.
So, yeah, what are
Would
you
you like
all,
to
what are
extend
your
the
thoughts to
meeting?
have 10 additional minutes added to our end of our time at 12 p.m.?
I'm good with it.
Good with that?
I can do 10 minutes.
You can do 10
Let's do it.
minutes?
Yeah.
Sure.
I make a motion
We have
to
no one
extend
else.
the meeting for 10 minutes.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made to extend. Do I get a second motion? Motion
Mark.
Second. It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're all here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're extending it out 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
This is super informational too. Thank you all for being available.
So I'm not going to go through every single one. I just want to sort of familiarize you all with how it works. So I have gone through every application and inserted scores where It's just sort of a quantifiable metric that doesn't take a lot of personal analysis. Yeah, interpretation. Yeah, thank you. That's not as subjective. So I have gone ahead and filled in those scores. The areas where you all will need to input scores are highlighted in these orange boxes. You'll see that the applicant response, I've indicated where on the application you can find that response in order to score. And then if you hover over, then there's notes that you can see to sort of help you with your scoring. So like on this one, 4 points each for each of the priority populations.
I found this, I looked at this earlier, and I found this one really difficult in the sense that, like, the senior housing thing only lists seniors, so they're gonna get 5 points, where somebody that has a new housing project is gonna list every one of those populations, because they're not targeting anyone.
So it's available for
It's
anyone.
available for
Right.
anyone. So I found this really difficult.
Yeah.
There's a difference between availability and targeting an audience. So I don't know. I couldn't figure out how to score this one, really.
Feels like targeted audience should get a little, like a emotional bonus even if it's not on paper. And
I don't know, or the way we score it.
Or maybe you put a point system in there that basically neutralizes it. I mean, they're all hitting targets or they wouldn't be here. So if you give everybody 12, then the critical things that have lots of flexibility, anyway, there's.
Do they hit one of the targets that we've
Right.
identified?
Right.
And obviously, this is your discern, and we've listened to the
Right.
presentations, and so, yeah, these are your best
So
interests.
anyway, I don't know if we figure out a different way to.
No, I'm glad you said stuff
Because
like that.
I really, I
These are
really
hard.
struggle, because you got some application, like seniors, well, they could be people of color, they could be veterans, they could be
Yeah.
whatever, other things, but they didn't, and partly it's the applicant, the way the applicant filled it out.
Yeah.
Somebody that does these applications all the time checked every box.
So
Because they know that, you're right.
Yeah.
Because
That's the right answer.
That's the right answer.
We've had
So-
some very intentional applicants who go deeper dive into what
Right.
these individual boxes can relate
Some of
and
it's
give us an
Right.
actual score
Some of
to.
it's
One is-
perspective.
It's the same one with like community engagement. You have people like say, we're gonna hold a community meeting, and then you have people say, these are the 3 meetings I've gotta hold with what groups.
So
It's like they have a defined plan versus, yeah, I'm gonna hold a meeting, and we don't know what that is.
This is a really great conversation, and I think it would be great to carry over to our special meeting, just so we can get through the matrix. But yes, absolutely. No, the intention, though, of that question was that they are deliberately, intentionally prioritizing or targeting those populations, not that they will just be served, but because applicants fill it out differently, it's more subjective how you all sort of interpret and score that. Let's see. So, as I said, I put in sort of the standard points. It scores on the bottom automatically, and then you will have an opportunity to put any comments or recommendations into the text box here. So all of these tabs in the yellow are new development. The sort of brown tabs are rehab projects. The new development or rehab projects have more sort of standardized scoring, and so you'll notice as you go through your own scoring matrix that more scores are filled in. Where we get to like the support services, et cetera, it'll be you'll be reviewing those applications and entering more of the scores.
Can we add qualitative comments directly onto the matrix or no?
In this
at the bottom? Oh, okay, okay, sorry.
So just continuing through, make sure that you scroll through all of the tabs. All of the key, sorry, let me actually go here. So this right now is just the scores from my scores. These are not the final scores, but it will carry over. So whatever your recommended amount that you put on whatever the score is will ultimately carry over here. You will input your recommended amount, and then if you have any shorter notes on your recommendation, you can put that here. The key project elements chart, again, just lists those, really the prioritization criteria that we look at so that you can compare projects sort of side by side. The one error that I had made was in calculating, I put an extra 0 in the tenants to homeowners cost per bedroom. So I've corrected that and I will send that out to you. So really what, particularly in the, well, I wouldn't say particularly, but so some things to pay particular attention to, I would say. So the percentage of units that are for 40% AMI or below, right? The more units for 40% and below, I would suggest should be prioritized higher. This is just the number of units or households served. Again, the number of ADA, this is a percentage of ADA units, the number of ADA units, and the percentage of units incorporating universal design. That's another one of our goals, is increasing accessible, affordable units. So again, the more ADA accessible units, higher prioritization when compared with like projects. Affordable Housing Trust Fund leverage is one criteria that we use. But the nonprofit projects, particularly if you're looking at like Independence Inc., Senior Resource Center, the Lawrence Tenants Project, those are like 100% supported by Affordable Housing Trust Funds just based on other funding that's available for those projects. And those are projects that, like, right, and that directly advance AHAB and city goals.
Today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Today's
nice. Yes. We look at Affordable Housing Trust Fund investment per bedroom, which is really only relevant for new development projects. I have added this year the percentage of the percentage of 3 or more bedrooms that will be included, and you can see that only one project for new development does include 3 or more bedrooms. So you can see like why that's such an important prioritization criteria, because typically we do not get those. I have included a new field on what the rent will be for a 2-bedroom at 60% AMI. And then have included the fair market value of rent for a 2-bedroom unit at just the fair market value. So you can sort of compare what those rents are. Developer or admin fees, the location, the length of affordability and feasibility, sort of where they are. So we have,
When you say you calculated those rents, was that based on what the applicant told you, or are they standard for all of them?
The rents were included in the application.
Okay. Because I heard them and I didn't compare that. One guy said what the other guy, didn't.
Yeah.
One other change to that is length of affordability on Cohen-Esrey. They verbally today committed to 30 years.
They did verbally say that.
I don't know if we want to clarify that and get that in writing before
For Cohen?
we score them.
Yeah.
Oh, for 50 years?
15.
Yeah.
They went to
An
30.
additional
They
50.
committed to 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking them at 30.
So I just included what's on the application, what's on paper. If there can be room for negotiation if awarded and in the agreement process. We have 1 minute left. I know we went through that super fast. Are there any questions about how to score, what we're looking at, what we need? Okay. So I would suggest that to prepare for the next meeting, it would be helpful at least to compare the applications to the matrix to maybe start scoring, although they won't be due by the next meeting.
next meeting 29th, right? Not 28th.
Right.
29th, yes.
The scoring is due to you by 29th, 5 p.m. or 28th, 5
The
p.m.
next few days, the 4th and
November 4th.
Oh, November 4th.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
A few days to do.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, thank you all for
Thank
letting me
you.
go through that.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
discussion and additional discussion. I think we're at time. I don't know if I have to end, but thank you all. And
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you for going through and doing all this. I mean, I
Yeah.
probably spent 3 hours last night going through this
Yeah,
stuff.
that's a lot.